Good evening. I want to convene the regular meeting of the Brattleboro Selectboard for April 17th. We know the meeting has been properly warned because we were here at 5:30 for executive session. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes of the April 3rd meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 3rd meeting. Does anyone have any comments about the minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Chair's remarks. I'm going to mention two things that the town manager gave to me, so he's going to get credit, but I'm going to mention them. Just for the public, we're going to be discussing the utility budget, the solid waste budget, and the parking budget. And I want to give everybody the dates when we're going to do that. So if you want to come, you can. May 1st, at our May 1st meeting will be the utility budget and the solid waste budget. May 15th will be the parking budget, which will include a presentation on the parking study that was done at the end of last year.
We'll actually present the study on May 1st.
Oh, May
So that
1st.
you can consider that
Oh,
before
I'm
the budget
sorry.
on May 15th.
Yeah, that's what it says. So May 1st, the parking study, and then the budget May 15th. So if anybody wants to come and hear or provide input, those are the meetings to come to. And then I'm going to mention something that I always get asked, which is the leaf pickup, April 20th, this Friday, if you want to put leaves out. That's like there's another one in May, Terry. Yeah.
Before.
2 weeks later.
Yeah, 2 weeks later. But that's like the big thing for everybody. So May 20th is the leaf pickup. And that's really all I have. And I don't know if the town manager has some remarks.
I do, thank you. And actually, if I might just add on to the leaf pickup discussion. We received a lot of feedback from folks last fall who were concerned that the 2 dates for pickup happened at a relatively normal time in the fall, but because the leaves stayed on the trees so long last fall, if you remember, we had a warm fall, and we didn't really get completely bare until well into November. And so now here comes springtime for the spring pickup, and the first of the 2 dates is falling at a time when there may still be snow on the ground, or at least a pretty rotten week. So we understand that. Hopefully, in terms of the spring pickup, the pickup a couple of weeks from now is going to meet that need for everybody. But we're taking a look at the whole schedule and system and seeing whether there's some adjustments we can make to that'll make it work better for everybody, given that climate change has thrown us some interesting curveballs, both spring and fall. So, and the one thing that I wanted to mention is just in furtherance of an item that was considered very fully at the April 3rd meeting. The board worked really hard with a lot of input to come to a decision, and if I can paraphrase the basis of that decision, it was, fundamentally the greatest good for the greatest number, but recognizing that sometimes when those decisions are made to benefit the broader community, that there are individuals or individual properties that are negatively affected rather than positively affected. It was a real hard piece of work. And at the end of it, it related to designation of flood zone. There's some mapping that is being changed. And so for anyone who was watching, the board is aware of this now, but I want the public to be aware that there was a happy ending to that story. The board's direction that night was, we need to do what's right for the community, so we're approving this thing we've been asked to approve. But we're concerned about the impact to the one property owner who was identifying some really significant, potentially negative impacts for him and his property. We were asked to, in the implementation of the overall action, go back and look at that mapping. There was some discussion that we don't need to go further into here right now that was discussed in great detail that night about the technical aspects of why the lines aren't just in a single spot, why there's some variability to where they might land after some additional analysis. We were asked to go back and do that additional analysis in the hopes that maybe a proper final outcome could be that this property also would be outside of the negatively affected area. And after the engineers did some additional work on that, that's exactly what happened. The property that was got so much attention 2 weeks ago tonight actually has landed outside of the negatively affected flood zone area.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone on the select board have any comments or committee reports?
I do.
I do.
No.
We also, I just want to welcome Shanta. This is her first meeting. So, and as I told her, no question is a stupid question. So, which you'll discover
Or maybe
when
they
we ask,
all are.
or maybe they're all stupid questions. Now it's time for public participation, and this is the time in the meeting where we welcome the public to come to the microphone and speak to issues that are not on tonight's agenda. So if there's anyone that wants to speak to something that's not on tonight's agenda, please come up to the microphone. And what we ask is you tell us your name and where you are
There
from.
are two of you, you can come over here and
Is that okay?
see if you
Well,
like, yeah.
you got to make it, it's a short comment,
Yeah,
okay?
Like 2 minutes?
Okay.
We have,
I didn't want you to get too comfy.
we won't get too comfy. I'll just start. Do we need to be near the microphone?
Yes.
That would be for the television.
Audience.
Yeah,
I
it
am
doesn't.
Diana Wally. I am the chair of the Diverse Workforce Development Committee that had a chance to share our work with you maybe a year ago. How long ago? And this is Alex Beck from BDCC. We are here to just tell you a bit about April 6th. And it was an event that Shanta Lee helped with on the lunchtime, which was great. That Peter and David are part of the committee that helped with the planning. Just as a little background, our committee has been going for 3 years. It was founded by our police chief and our school superintendent. And we work on trying to, with all of the HR directors from the largest employers in our region, to try to make our workforces more diverse, to attract applicants from backgrounds, people of color that would be interested in moving to our community. So April 6th was our pilot in this effort, one of maybe 3 or 4 projects that we're working on. And Alex was a big part of organizing the day. We invited students, 5 students came from the College of St. Joseph in Rutland. And I'd just like Alex to describe his Bridge to Brattleboro concept, which we used as a guide for designing the day.
Sure. Yeah, I think it like all things that go well in Brattleboro, it's an example of a lot of different people and programs coming together and working collaboratively. And so the BDCC has a college internship program, so we had a lot of relationships and infrastructure in place. And so we reached out to College of St. Joseph's after they engaged with the Community Equity Collaborative at another meeting. And so the students came and they did job shadows with town employees, with both of our hospitals in the area, and another student toured the cotton mill who was interested in business. But really, I think it was just a great example of a conversation that we had all very publicly, and those same people really came together to address the issue and to start something. And so I think this is as much great news, but also one of many future progress reports on the issue that was brought up last time we were sitting in these seats.
That's right. So the day was a mixture of those visits to the different institutions that were hosts, whether it was the school or the retreat or the hospital, and also more informal exchanges, such as Shanta Lee participated in the luncheon at the Root Center. We also had pizza at Hazel's for dinner, and it was just a chance to meet with the young professionals, get a sense of what young people in the area are doing, to give people a sense of what it would be like to live here. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. And the bad news was that it was gallery walk, but terrible weather. And so they opted to go home early back to Rutland rather than stick around. So next group will get them when it's sunny and bright out, and they'll do gallery walk.
But
I
the
have a
good news
feeling-
is that a couple of them said if they were offered jobs here, they would come.
well, I want to say
Yeah.
the law enforcement, they were part of the criminal justice program at the College of St. Joseph, and they shadowed with the police department all day, as with the Community Justice Center. And I ate at Hazel's with them, and they said they were going to apply for jobs here. So
And
this
Chief
is a,
Fitzgerald is here, so I'm sure
oh,
he'd
he's
be happy
right
to hear that.
here. Maybe he would like to.
He's got extra pens and applications in his pocket.
And just to say, it's not about how this community is similar to all the others that excited these students. It was how it's so different in a lot of ways, and I think Chief Fitzgerald really embodies that in how he runs our police department. But there are similar examples all across our community that we were allowed to share, and I think that really resonated with those students. That it wasn't Rutland, it wasn't Northern Vermont. This was a different place, and so it went well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
Appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the public who wants to talk about something that's not on tonight's agenda?
I'm not jumping the gun here.
Okay. You have to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm
for the
sorry,
viewers.
Terry Carter, and I'm a rep from District 3. Last winter when we had our annual voting, somebody huge was missing, and I was hoping against the odds that he was still around, but at town meeting about, last month when they Mr. Crisp listed off names, including your wonderful dad, Mr. O'Connor, they also mentioned Hugh Bronson. And he always greeted everybody at all the town functions. And I served with him on BCTV for several years. And we were often at odds, but despite that, he was always so warm and approachable and full of fatherly advice. But he did it in such a gracious and respectable way. It was always good. And I just want to call out for Hugh Bronson. He was very proud of his nickname, Hug, and my only regret is I never gave him one. But thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else in the public that would like to talk about something that's not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to unfinished business. And our first item is one that David Scholes wants to talk to us about. It's the tax implications of Act 46 merger and a letter that he is proposing to send to the Vermont State Board of Education and whoever the secretary is at this particular moment.
Yeah. Yeah, well, as you'll recall, we took this up, I think on election night when we were in the library, and the letter I brought at that time with the resolution was a little bit longer. It included endorsing the alternative governance structure for Act 46, which would keep our local school boards in place but still meet the needs, the requirements of Act 46. And my colleagues made the two really valid points. One is that they don't necessarily know enough about the merger proposal or the alternative merger proposal to really make a decision, and also it's not really our area to make that decision. And it was suggested that the focus be on the vote and supporting the will of the people. So I put this letter together. I know you've all seen it, and it basically reminds us that in at town meeting in 2014, Don Webster made a resolution that we ask our legislators to not support any change in our school governance that wasn't supported by the people. And then the next year, I made a resolution that we discourage the legislature from creating a law that gave the State Board of Education the authority to eliminate our town school district. And then in 2017, Andy Davis made a resolution that all these were overwhelmingly supported, that no merger be forced upon the town without public endorsement. And then, of course, in November, the four towns that were part of the merger proposal voted, and overwhelmingly 2-1 against merging and against giving up the local boards. And the turnout at that election was greater in total than the turnout the previous November when we elected a governor, our senators, and our local representatives as well. It was clearly well attended, and people knew what they were voting on, and they clearly expressed the interest in keeping our highly successful supervisory union, and particularly the town school board. And because of our governance structure, our town meeting is well after town meeting day. So if we were to merge, we wouldn't be voting on a budget then. The budget would be voted Australian ballot on the Tuesday town meeting day. And then we would have some sort of a presentation, but the vote would be done. And the town report night, which I think any town reps here that have attended it recognizes a really extraordinary experience for an opportunity for the district, the employees, the administration, the board to present all the things that are going on in the school and the needs of the community and the way the school is addressing them and how we know we're doing a good job and how we know we're not and how we know the way we're using the tax money. And in pretty much every time we've done that, we've gotten an overwhelmingly positive response from the town meeting reps. And the last time, people just came up and were really congratulatory in their remarks. And that's a way that the community really comes to understand what's going on in the schools and really is able to express their support and then provide that support in the tax rate. That would be gone. That would not be a part of our efforts if we were forced to merge. So the uniqueness of Brattleboro, I think, puts us in a position where we can fairly say that this is one of the places that the law allowed might not be the best place for consolidated board. It might not be the best place to get rid of the local boards. There might be some uniqueness in communities where there's a better option. And that's what we chose to do here. We voted against the merged option. And we've submitted the articles. We've testified to the Agency of Education, and the state board will get a report from the secretary in June and then take a couple more months to figure out what's going on, and then we'll testify again. So we still don't know what the outcome is. But the expression of the voters in Brattleboro, I think, was really clear. So what I'm asking in this letter is that we just reinforce that and ask that the state board, the secretary in her proposal, and the state board in their deliberations will consider the public's expressions, the public's will, when they review the options for what to do about the town school district under Act 46.
Does anyone on the board have any comments or questions?
Sure. So I'm just wondering what's the current evidence, in your opinion, of the votes being disregarded? I'm just kind of curious about that.
Oh, well, the State Board of Ed doesn't have to pay attention to the vote. The law, Act 46, it included a process of developing a merger, which is the same law that set up the supervised union in the first place. That required towns to approve the joining of districts together. But the actual law said that when you get to December 26th, if anybody that's not merged needs to say what they want, any district that's not merged needs to tell the Secretary of Education what they want, and then the Secretary will develop a proposal and the State Board will decide what happens to them. And so the people are out of it, and they don't have to consider that at all. And if we don't ask them, or we don't say that, if we don't believe that it's important that they take into consideration the votes, the people that voted for us, the vote counts. The people who voted against school merger, why would that vote not count? And I think we're asking them to recognize that that's an important thing, even though it's not in the law. It's an important important evidence of the degree to which the public is satisfied with the schools and supports the schools and is willing to continue to support them.
Has any specific action been taken since the vote that has led you to feel that we would be disregarded, or is it more of a response to the fact that it could happen, or has there been specific action that says, you know what, I feel like it's going down that road?
Well, the governor has taken a really clear position that he wants everything consolidated, and the Secretary of Education, who has been hearing the various presentations from schools that aren't merged, saying why they think it's better for them not to merge, given the goals of the law. The fact that the secretary resigned shortly after the governor made that statement is kind of an indication that the pressure on the state board is is become toward consolidation. I think as far as what's happened here with our developing and presenting the alternative proposal, I think it's actually, we've made a really strong case that we are different and that we do have a really solid way to meet the needs of the goal and in that way so respect the expressed will of the voters. So I think chances are really, if it's a fair playing field, I think chances are better than they were a few months ago.
What's the timeline we would be looking at for this? Like,
The secretary has to, I think they've finished the reports from the school districts. And now the secretary has until June 1st. And the secretary, we're told, is a position, it's not a person. The staff of the agency is actually doing most of the work, but the secretary is required to report on June 1st to the State Board of Ed. And then the State Board of Ed from June 1st to November 31st looks it over and decides what to do, which parts to accept, which parts to reject, what to change. And during that time, there's continual engagement with the school districts. It's not really done until the end of November, conveniently after the election. Put that aside.
And David, I applaud you for taking this on, because it has been years now, it feels like.
Yes, it is. It has been years.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things where I'm coming from, and I just we don't know why the Secretary of Education left.
That's
She has
fair.
not said
That's fair.
anything, and nobody is
That's
speaking,
fair.
which you can read
Yeah.
into whatever, but my issue with me personally putting my name on the letter is there are two proposals that the Agency of Education has. It's the Act 46 Study Committee, and it's the Alternative Governance Structure Committee's proposal. The Act 46 Study Committee's proposal was the one that was voted on by the town of Brattleboro. The Alternative Governance Structure proposal has not been voted on by anybody. So to me, the implication here is, don't go with that one, but go with this one without saying go with this one. So I personally don't want to put my name on a letter where it's, there's two proposals up there. And if we send one saying don't do anything that the voters rejected, there's one proposal that they've rejected. The other one, nobody in this town has voted on. So we don't know what the people in the town of Brattleboro think about the alternative governance structure proposal. So that's where I have a problem. I don't know if there are three people or whatever, on the board who want to send a letter, that we can do it in a way that says these people, say yes and this person says no. I mean, I'm
Yes,
just throwing
yeah.
that out, because I don't want to, personally, if four people vote for this or three people vote for this, I would prefer that my name not be on it, because I don't want it to represent the entire select board on something that I don't believe
Okay.
in. But that's just sort of where I'm coming from. But again, I applaud your tenacity at this, because it's something.
Yeah, let me respond to
Yeah.
that concern, because first off, the results of the vote would be recorded, and any nay votes would be, because we have to, our name was here, so it's the year and eight.
Yeah.
But the alternative is an alternative to merger. It's not an alternative governance structure. The Act 46 is about changing governance structures. And the town voted to not change the governance structure, with a very clear message that was repeated over and over again by the advocates for not merging, that we could meet the goals under the current structure. And the agency will decide, or the state board will decide whether that's true or not, whether our proposal does that.
Yeah.
But there's no reason to vote on it, because there's no change in the governance structure. It changes, it creates a new committee in the school, which engages teachers and parents with administration and board members, which is new. And it creates a structure, and that was in the merger proposal. And it creates a separate structure, which is representatives from all the boards. The elementary school boards will meet to talk about how they can share and resources and collaborate and work more efficiently together. Those are not changes in governance. So there's no reason that the town would vote. The town voted not to merge, which means that the other side of that is that the governance structure that's in place is acceptable to the town.
Right.
So
Well, yeah.
the alternative would never come up for a vote. There would never be that opportunity.
Right,
So-
but I think my point is, the Agency of Education has two things in front of them. You know, I mean, they have
Yeah,
two
but you said
things
one
in
was
front of
voted on and one wasn't, and I'm
Well-
saying that that's a false
Okay,
equivalence.
but I guess we can take that out of it, but my whole thing is they have two things in front of them. And if we say, don't look at one, it implies that we as a select board have said, do the other, and it may be very benign what's in the other, but, I mean, I think that's just where my problem is, that there's this default thing, that there's this other thing that, you know, I don't think most people, except for I'm sorry. Most people, you know, even know what it's about. Probably a lot of people, which is actually good because you're educating a lot of people right now. That's just where I'm coming from. But I don't want to stop, you know, 3 other people from sending, or 4 other people from sending a letter if they want to.
You know, something that you said is interesting to me, because I've struggled, not that I also appreciate the work, but I've struggled with, you know, fitting it into the purview of the select board, and I wonder, is it better approached as, though, I mean, does it need to be a yay or nay, vote up, vote down, or can it be like, hey, if people at this table want to sign on to this, that's cool, and if people at this table don't want to, then that's cool too, and you could write, you know, member of select board after their name if you want to. Is there a little bit of a hybrid here? Because I for a vote up, vote down, I'm uncomfortable
Right.
with that. For a, hey, do you want to sign on to my letter as I'm comfortable with that idea.
I feel like I need more information personally before making any. I'm going to second what Kate said. Is you've done extensive, great work presenting this, but I feel like I want to know more about what's before our Board of Education before, so I know what all of the possible options would be for myself.
Sorry, my chair's so loud.
Now, David, again,
Tell me, you're gonna say something.
when is the deadline when they're making this decision?
The final report will be, I believe it's November 31st.
So we
The
have
issue-
until.
The secretary's report to the state board is the beginning of June.
So when would they need to? I guess.
When's the drop dead
What's your
deadline?
goal
Yeah.
for like when
Well,
you
my
would
goal
want
is for the select board to express their support for what the people of the town have asked for. And to get that in before June would be important because it's part of the weight that they have to give to the, in considering this. It's part of what they have to consider. But I would be happy to, well, I wouldn't be happy, but I will come back with more information to make, I don't know if you had a chance to read the
I looked at all of
letter
it.
and the charts and the actual
Yes.
impact it would have on
No, I
Brattleboro,
look-
which is one of the
yeah.
reasons that people voted it down.
No, definitely. I did look at all the information provided. Thank you.
I think I also had sort of a purview question, like, is it our role to be, you know, making this letter to go to them?
Yeah.
And you wrote this backup stuff? Or?
Well, it's the committee put it together, the Alternative
Okay.
Governance Committee put it
Because
together.
I really like some of the work and the ideas they put into it, actually. But I still sort of landed back with, is it proper for us to be sending this out? I think the thing that pushes me towards your argument is the implications of tax. You know, taxes overall is certainly something we want to be involved in.
I don't think there's anything stopping us from being involved in whatever we want.
Sure.
On a
yes.
practical level, but on a bigger level, we have to decide
Oh, yeah.
if it's something we want to be involved in.
Yeah. But to do the business of the town efficiently, I think we should keep ourselves to the business of the town and not start to take on outside interests. But, so I don't know. I'm uncomfortable. It sort of feels like maybe you'll have more votes if you give at least one of us a little more time, right? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'd love more time, and I would like to look at like all the implications, like let's say we don't weigh in, let's say there was no letter that was sent to say let's support what was voted on. What does that mean? Does that close us off from other alternatives? Does that close us off or say that, would it be assumed that we would be closed to other plans that are before the Board of Education? So I wanna figure out what would be opened or closed for us depending on if we choose this option or that option, or let's say we say nothing, what would that be? What would it be the implication of that as well?
Okay. Yeah, I think, I just want to point out again, though, that what this is asking is that the select board is asking the state board to consider the public's opinion, that we respect and are behind, and support the, again, 3 times overwhelmingly voted at town meeting, and then again in the public vote against the merger. The committee clearly expressed that they did not want to be forced to merge.
And I'm almost there. I'm almost there. But I think my problem is that it's, the last sentence is, that we're concerned that the votes of the citizens might be disregarded in the imposed merger. It's us telling them that that they disregarded the votes, when in fact they could have completely regarded it, weighed the pros and cons, and then made their decision anyway.
Yeah.
Opposite the votes. So I guess that's my sticking point as far as beyond the purview. It's the way that's phrased. But so I guess I was suggesting that maybe if that was tweaked a little bit, just to keep it to hey,
that
we
one
went
point.
this way, and let's respect democracy. And we urge you to consider the vote strongly.
Okay, well, I will provide some more information to everybody and make myself available, and we'll bring it up again sometime.
We
We'll
can
table
try-
it for the time being.
Yeah, we can try May 1st. That's our next meeting. Does that work?
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, certainly.
We can try it again.
Yeah, that's far enough away. Yeah.
Okay. Elizabeth?
I have some concerns about this letter.
Is now the appropriate time to
It is.
make my comments?
I think we've decided we're going to hold off till May 1st, but this is a perfect time.
But here I am.
You should go for it.
Okay.
It's on our agenda.
I have concerns as to why Mr. Scholes is sending this letter from the Select Board. I don't think it's the appropriate body. And he's also a member of the school board, which has voted for the merger. And so I am concerned that this is another instance of Mr. Scholes contradicting the role of the vote of a board that he's a member of, and really trying to circumvent the school board by using the select board. And I feel that if that would be the case, he has a unique role at being a member of both boards, and he may cause a breach between the two boards by suggesting this letter be sent when it is in fact school board business. And I think that this letter is inappropriate coming from the select board. It's a school board issue, and I urge the select board not to vote for this letter and not to send it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else in the public?
Just a quick response.
Oh, yeah. I'm
just,
sorry.
I think it's important to point out that the school board has no authority whatsoever under Act 46, and their recommendation was not, was to send the merger proposal to the state board because the alternative would be that the state could make up some model to merge. And what the school board voted on, and we were split, was that if a merger is, if we have to merge, the school board wants to use the articles that were submitted as the model to merge. But there is at no point that is it the school board's business to decide what our governance structure would be, or anything else under Act 46. The only responsibility of the school board was to elect representatives to be on the state mandated committee, which operated independent of the school boards. We couldn't even take representatives off that committee once they were on. So there's really it's not the school board's business. It happens to affect the school board, but it's not a decision that the school board ever had any influence on.
But I don't think it's the select board's business. Because you guys know nothing about it. You know, I mean,
You're trying to educate the select board on things that they know nothing about, and it's not their purview. And I don't think that that's appropriate.
Yeah, I'm asking the select board to reinforce the message of the voters.
Thank you. Kurt, please come up.
Hi, Kurt Dimes, Brattleboro District 2. I can try to offer a little bit of clarification about the interdepartmental jurisdictional discussion here. I think that the charter has a provision in Article 1 regarding the appropriate division of powers, which we understand under the national Constitution. You remember the clause in the 10th Amendment that says all powers not designated to the Congress or the President go to the states and so forth. We have a corresponding article in the Charter which says that all powers not given to the Select Board or to the people are given to the representative town meeting. And it sounds like this question about the Proposition 46, if it's to be a matter of commentary or I guess that's what you're talking about. Commentary is not given to the select board. That's given to the representative town meeting specifically in the charter. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments from the public about what we are talking about? All right, I think the plan then, if we'll try for May 1st and put it back on, because I think that's our next meeting. Thank you so much. Now we have, moving on to new business, which is John O'Connor is going to be giving us the March finance report, financial update.
Thank you, Kate, and good evening, everyone. So in your packet is the March financial report. We are 75% of the way through the year, and general fund expenditures the end of March stood at 74%. And then if we prorate the annual insurance payments, human service payments, and lease and note payments, the percentage would drop to 71.1%. So we're doing well. The utilities fund was at 74.9%, and parking expenditures were at 75.8%. And if we prorate the utility insurance expense and their interest expense, that would drop their budget to 72.4%. So again, doing well in the utility fund, a little over, and that's primarily due to plowing in the parking budget. And then the solid waste fund, revenues were at 68.9% and expenditures were at 70.1%. And as I say every month, the March refuse bag revenue, curbside collection, and tipping fees will not be recorded until April. So those look like they'd be a little under where they should be, but we don't have those March expenses and revenues recorded yet. The loan report shows that we have $4,457,538 in outstanding loans. 3 of the loans had payments that were overdue, and 2 loans are in default, but they are fully reserved. Program income, we had $433,679 in available funds for additional grants and loans as of the end of March. And then finally, you have the grant report, which shows that there are 49 active grants and 10 grants in the application process, and all the related information related to those grants. So if you have any specific questions on any of those reports or line items in the budget, I'll try to answer those for you. Otherwise, that's what I have for this evening.
Does anyone on the board have any questions for John?
Excellent write-up as usual.
I have one question.
Yes,
I always feel like I should have one question.
all right, Jim.
Can you just explain to me, this might be a dumb one, as Kate
We always have dumb ones.
suggested. In the taxes section, right on the first page there, page 1 of 15.
Okay.
What's the difference between penalty line and collection charges? Because the penalty line has 0.
Right. Penalties are assessed on taxes after the May payment is due. Then we assess an 8% penalty. Collection charges are charges related to tax sale.
Oh. Okay.
I have a question. In the, not in this material, but in your memo that you did,
Oh,
whatever that is,
yep.
we're still waiting for money from FEMA from like 2014. And it made me think, the last board meeting when we were talking about the map, it's because the Brattleboro Housing Partnership wants to get FEMA money, like a grant from FEMA. Will they get their grant from FEMA before we ever get like reimbursed? You know, like what's the, do you know what I mean? I just don't get it.
Well, I have some good news for you.
Oh, okay.
We did receive the final payment,
Oh,
and it was actually more than we were expecting. So we have been paid everything that we're due
Wow.
from FEMA and the state at this point.
wow, okay.
So we can close the books on that event.
Okay,
Exciting.
perfect.
Do we have to give the extra back?
No, the extra was related to the outfall pipe at the sewer plant.
Oh.
And it was, they underestimated, when they did the project worksheet, they underestimated the cost of that project. Project came in considerably above what they had estimated. And FEMA at first, pushed back on that and said, well, here's what you had in your project worksheet, here was your estimate, that's what we're paying. But the state pushed back, we pushed back, and eventually FEMA said, we'll pay you.
Good. Like 4 years later, yes. All right. Does anyone in the public have any questions about the March finance report? And just as a reminder, on May 1st, we're going to be talking about the utility budget and the solid waste budget. And then on the 15th, we're talking about the parking budget. For anybody who doesn't know, those are not approved during the normal budget cycle at town meeting. That's why they're sort of out of the normal cycle and why we talk about them differently. Thank you, John,
No problem.
and thanks for the FEMA update.
Yeah.
Next up is a community development block grant application that we're being asked to file on behalf of BDCC. And there are 3 parts to this. We're going to have a public hearing, which I will call in a moment. Then the board is going to be asked to submit the grant application to the Vermont Department of, or to Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development, and then we're going to be asked to commit in concept to some enhancements to our wastewater system. But first, I'm going to call the public hearing to order. And I think first up, we're going to hear from Patrick Moreland, who is going to explain what the grant application is all about. And I think we'll probably hear from other people perhaps as well. So Patrick.
Excellent. Good evening. Tonight, the Select Board is asked to authorize the submission of a grant application to the Vermont Community Development Program for an implementation grant in the amount of $1 million for our potential sub-grantee, the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, to support Culture Made Vermont. In addition, the Select Board is asked to adopt the resolution for grant application authority and to identify myself as the Assistant Town Manager as the contact person, and to identify the Town Manager, Peter Elwell, as the authorizing official. Culture Made Vermont will be a value-added dairy processing facility occupying 26,000 square feet of production and commercial office space at 343 John Sites Drive in the Exit 1 Industrial Park here in Brattleboro. BDCC will act as the developer. They'll establish a support company, purchase and renovate 343 John Sites Drive, make site improvements, and purchase and furnish all production equipment. Once the project is complete, Culture Made Vermont will lease the facility and all the production equipment from that support company. The project is expected to produce 46 jobs over the initial 2 years, although the project isn't expected to get up to full capacity until perhaps year 5. And just as with previous large-scale economic development projects like Commonwealth or GS Precision, the company will continue to add new positions as it expands towards reaching its full potential. Total cost of the project is anticipated to be $32.5 million, of which more than $28 million is new private investment capital here in Brattleboro. If there are any questions about the application, I can try and address those now. Otherwise, I'll sort of move on and start talking about the water and sewer improvements.
Well, let's stop 1 second,
Yep.
because I just want to make sure everybody understands. This is money that comes through the feds to the state, and we apply for these grants quite often. We apply for them not only for economic development, but for housing. We do a lot of with Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust on this. So this is not something that's unique. This is what we do a lot. And the reason the town has to apply is because that's the way it's set up, that it has to flow from the feds, the state, to the town, and then we will pass the money over to BDCC.
That's absolutely
Yeah.
correct. We do this, probably 2 to 3 CDBG applications a year.
Yeah.
And we've been very successful as a community in doing that.
Yeah, and is this a grant or a loan?
This will be a grant.
Is that's like the basic? I just want to make sure we're all on
Good
the same
clarifying question.
thing on the basic. And when you talk about the water and sewer, then I'm going to add something about that too.
Absolutely. So the Select Board is also asked this evening to commit in principle to the town making a set of water and sewer improvements minimally valued at $840,000, which will increase the capacity at Exit 1 Industrial Park should Culture Made Vermont successfully secure all of its permits and all of its project financing. The improvements include sort of 2 pieces. The first is the need to expand the force main, which exits the Exit 1 Park, and as it connects to the sewer main on Route 5 and heads further down Canal Street. The cost of this improvement would be about $540,000. There is also a need to more quickly replace the water levels in the 1 million-gallon storage tank at Exit 1 Industrial Park, and there's 2 ways in which we could approach this. One way would be to increase the size of the existing gravity-fed piping that currently refills the tank. This would cost about $950,000. Alternatively, pumps could be installed and they could more quickly refill the tank. This would only cost about $300,000. There is a bit of a decision to be made here about which project makes the most sense for Brattleboro. If the choice was to go ahead with the least expensive capital project, that would be $840,000. But this would also include ongoing annual energy costs, and of course, any set of pumps which were installed would eventually need to be replaced. On the other hand, retooling the gravity-fed system would have no ongoing operating costs, but it would increase the size of the capital project to about $1.5 million. Dufresne Group is working on behalf of the town right now, and they're examining the life cycle costs of each of these 2 approaches, and staff will bring back this information to the Select Board at the appropriate time. It's also important to recognize that these improvements, while necessary for the development of Culture Made Vermont, will benefit every site in the Exit 1 Industrial Park and will improve the overall capacity for the entire town water system. In order to partially offset this expense, the town and BDCC have collectively reached out to the United States Economic Development Administration, and we have been encouraged to submit for a public works grant from the US EDA, which would reimburse the town of Brattleboro for 50% of the capital cost. Now, if we were to go with a low-end project, that would be about $420,000. If we were to go with a higher-end project, that'd be $745,000. At the appropriate time, staff will come back to the Select Board to seek authorization to submit that grant application. And you can expect that in the coming probably 2 months. In addition to recapturing a significant portion of the expense of this project, the Culture Made Vermont project will itself create a new large utility customer. I think a good example of which would be Commonwealth Yogurt, which is also a dairy processing facility. They paid $356,000 in connection fees to the town and to the utility, and they pay a similar amount each year for annual water usage fees. Culture Made Vermont is expected to be a similarly sized customer, so this will be of real importance to the utility fund. For these reasons, staff is recommending that the town commit in principle to moving forward with these improvements should Culture Made Vermont secure their permits and secure all their project financing. This will be important information to include with the Community Development Block Grant application, and will make that particular proposal that much more attractive to the folks up in Montpelier. There are other actions that will be brought to the Select Board over the course of the coming months. These have been outlined in the backup for the Select Board. There will be a variety of actions that the board will need to take, potentially, including discharging a mortgage, an anticipated tax stabilization program, and the board will carefully consider the wastewater discharge permit, but each of these things will be coming back to the Select Board in time, probably over the course of the summer.
Now, just to clarify, the wastewater thing that we're being asked to commit to, or in concept tonight, we're not deciding what we're doing tonight. We're not deciding how much money we're spending tonight. We're just saying we're agreeing that in concept we need to make improvements to the system, but we're not talking dollar figures or anything tonight.
That's correct. There's much
Right.
that still needs to be determined, and there's some engineering that is happening right now, which will help to inform that decision. You'll make that decision at a later date.
Yeah, and the reason we're being asked to do this in concept tonight is because when you send a grant or you send an application to the Agency of Commerce and Community Development for a Community Development Block Grant, the state likes to see that the town is on board with this in some way.
Very much.
That's why we're doing these in concert tonight.
Yep.
Normally, we could do these, we wouldn't have to do this other one if we weren't trying to say to the state, the town believes in this.
That's
I
correct.
just want to make sure everybody knows we're not going to sit here and we don't have to look at the Dufresne engineering study and all of that stuff to figure it out, because that's going to come later.
That's correct.
Okay. 'Cause I'm just setting that.
That's
table.
good, I don't wanna look at the, I'm just kidding.
So does anybody, before we open up to comments, I don't know if,
Well,
oh,
question.
yeah, go right ahead.
The, Patrick, and this is just a clarification of how this whole thing works, with the tax stabilization, I think what I read is that BDCC owns the building, and the Vermont Culture will lease it from them. So if we do a tax stabilization, it's with BDCC, not with this company.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
And we still have to agree on, that's another whole issue that's coming down the
That's
pipe.
a big one.
Yeah, so really, basically, tonight, our main concern is, do we apply for the grant, the $1 million grant? And two, are we going to agree in concept to do some upgrades to the sewer, waste and sewer system?
That's correct.
Is that it? Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions? I'm going to open up to the public since it's a public hearing. Does anyone in the public have any questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Dimes, please come up.
Hi, I'm Kurt Dimes, live in Brattleboro District 2. I'm confused about the public, that is Brattleboro's interest in the sewer modifications. From what I hear so far, this is only going to be a significant portion of the $840,000 that benefits the owners of this prospective business. And if Brattleboro is presumably not owning part of the business and not getting part of the profits, I don't understand why we're going to subsidize them by helping them build the sewer modifications that they need.
Well, let the town manager.
Okay. Tim looked like he was ready to.
I'm ready too,
It's,
but
it's, in a nutshell, it's beyond just this one business, but we'll let.
So there's two different things going on here. One is the fact that the improvements will benefit the industrial park more generally and allow for there to be more economic activity on the hill there, not just this one project. But that still, I think, begs the heart of your question, which is, for the broader population of ratepayers, what is the community interest in this? The community interest in it is, it's informative to use the Commonwealth Dairy example. This would be a different project, but on much the same scale as the Commonwealth Dairy development in town. That project paid over $300,000 worth of connection fees to the system when it connected to the water and sewer. And while it started at a lower amount and built up to its current consumption, is currently paying well over $300,000 a year in user fees. So the broader base of the system benefits when not just the community benefiting from economic activity in the community, but the utility system itself actually benefits from adding a particular large user because they pay substantially into the system beyond the incremental cost of providing the service to them.
Does that make sense? And I think that's one of the things why we're not setting on what we're going to do tonight is because we have to look at all of that and we have to look at it in context with the utility budget as well. So we're thinking of all of this ourselves. Is there anyone else in the public that has anything to say about this project? No. Do you want to
just,
say?
if I can be the last word, I just see this as a really positive thing. And if you will, I think it's a win-win-win because it's a win for the ratepayers as far as building capacity and getting return well into the future. It's a win for jobs in the area. Certainly, these are going to be good jobs, a wide range of jobs coming, I think, certainly over a certain number of years, more than 46, I think, was the initial promissory. And then it's a win for the region, and it's the types of, what I think described as sort of Brattleboro size, Brattleboro scale industrial folks that we want to come to the region and really be a very unique Vermont company. So just want to end on that positive.
Good, and
Nice,
positive.
Tim.
Yes, Adam.
Hi, I just want to, Adam Arnold, Executive Director of the BDCC. Just want to thank Patrick and Peter for all the work you put into this and the board for holding the hearing and working with us on bringing this project forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Any more comments? With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. And I'm assuming it sounds like somebody would like to make a motion. We'll do each of them separately since they're big and
I'll
long.
start. Moved, we approve an application to the Vermont Community Development Program for an implementation grant for the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation in the amount of $1 million for the Culture Made Vermont project.
We have a motion to approve an application to the Vermont Community Development Program for an implementation grant for BDCC in the amount of $1 million for Culture Made Vermont. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Anyone want to make motion number 2?
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution from the Vermont Community Development Program for grant application authority identifying Assistant Town Manager Patrick Moreland as the contact person and Town Manager Peter Elwell as the authorizing official.
We have a motion to identify Assistant Town Manager Patrick Moreland as the contact person, Town Manager Peter Elwell as the authorizing official for the grant application we just approved. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And we have one more.
I'll make the motion to commit in concept to a set of water and wastewater capacity improvements valued at or above $840,000 to enhance the capacity of the utility systems at Exit 1 Industrial Park if Culture Made Vermont successfully secures all of its permits and funding to move forward with the project. All of those in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
Practicing for a next
I'll just, Shanta, I'll just feed right off of you. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Awesome. And thank you, BDCC. Next up is we're going to get an update on the skateboard park. And I know we have people here. Come on up to the table. And I think this sort of came out of the last meeting we had. We were applying for some grant, and it came up like we realized we hadn't had an update from you folks, and there was some confusion about how much money was coming in. So I think it was just a basic, we feel like we could use I shouldn't keep using the word, I don't mean.
A basic update.
Yes, a basic update. Just occurred to me what I was saying.
Tee that right up for
Sure. So my name is Jeff Clark. I've been on the committee for about 9 years now. BASIC, it stands for Brattleboro Area Skate Park is Coming. We had the town meeting, and I do want to say thank you again to the select board, the town meeting reps, and the town residents for the continued support of our project. I've been on the committee for 9 years. This has gone back way before my time, but it's an exciting time for us, you know. So the numbers right now, individual and corporate donations at $104,896. Now that does include the $60,000 from the representative town meeting. We have $35,000 in grants. I'm sorry, $35,000 in pledges, $30,400 in grants. So a total of $170,000 and $296 towards our $230,000 goal. $230,000 goal is based on $46.50 per square foot, 5,000 square feet. Those numbers we came up with about 3 years ago, and I've been reaching back out to the Tony Hawk Foundation. Again, on a quarterly basis, I have to check in with them about the project, where we're going, what we're working on. And so we've had a friendly relationship, and so I constantly reach out and say, is that number correct? And just about 3 weeks ago, I asked again, skate park, poured concrete in New England is $46, and they said, yes, that's what you can expect. And that originally was developed with a 15% contingency. So $170,000 towards $230,000 goal. We need $60,000 still. And just to give people how I saw the town meeting, how that played out, as everyone know, we went there with hoping to get $20,000. And an individual stood up, Rusty Sage, and said he understood we needed $120,000 left. He understood that. And his wording to me was, what do you need after the possibility of grants? And so I did some quick math in my head, and I knew there was some grants out there that we could apply for. One group said, we'd like to put you over the top. And one group said, come back to us when you're shovel ready. And I was throwing around numbers, and that's where I came up with $30,000. So that's potentially $30,000 that we're going to be applying for. The other $30,000 to make up that 60 is $15,000 Tarrant Foundation. And that's why we're here tonight, to ask you to accept that. Tarrant Foundation said, we will give you a matching grant, $15,000. Through the months of May and June, you need to generate $15,000, and we'll match 1 for 1. So we can walk away coming out of June with $30,000. So that 30 and the other 2 grants, we're hoping meets up and gets that 60 that we need. But not to put all of our eggs in one basket, we have the Vermont Community Foundation Spark, which we've applied for $3,000. We have the North Face grant that we applied for $25,000. The Walmart, which you okayed last time, we're working to apply for that, $5,000. And then we also have right now during this month, Meet Me at the Park. We can get $20,000 out of that every day. You go online, meetmeatthepark.org, and you vote for Brattleboro, And if we're the number one town, they then give us $20,000 for the rec, and they can allocate it as they see fit. Hopefully, it'll come to the skate park. And then also, we've got some other events. The Contra Dance in June in Dummerston, June 16th at 5:30. The contributions will come to the Brattleboro Skate Park, and that'll complement the Tarrant Foundation. And then also this group, VT Stance, it's a car show. They're putting on at the Georgia Pacific on April 28th. And again, donations from that event is going to come to BASIC during our Tarrant Foundation generation time period. So we got a lot of things. It's an exciting time for our group. It's long in coming, but we're really happy about where we're sitting.
Great, sounds good. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
No, I'm excited.
It feels good.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It feels like this is gonna be it.
A great facility. You're going to have a smile on your face when you see
Yeah.
the activity.
Well, I'm getting a skateboard because my 5-year-old asked if I would do it with him, so. Oh, it's not gonna be good.
This is a padded skateboard.
So the action you definitely want us to take tonight is to accept and appropriate the Tarrant Foundation grant.
Yes.
Okay. Before we do that, I just don't know if anyone in the public has any questions about the skateboard park while we're all here. Yes.
The motion is to accept the responsibility of filing the grant application?
No, we're actually
It's,
accepting the
cash.
Yeah, accepting and appropriating the Tarrant Foundation grant,
Thank you.
which is going to be $15,000. Does anyone else have any questions? All right. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a
It's
motion.
a positive motion, so we should make it.
I love those. I'll make a motion to accept and appropriate a challenge grant in an amount of up to $15,000 from the Tarrant Foundation to help pay for engineering and construction of a skate park in Living Memorial Park.
Yep, we have a motion to accept and appropriate a challenge grant of up to $15,000 from the Tarrant Foundation. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great,
Hopefully
thank
when you
you.
come back in July, you'll have the matching 15.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Thank you
now-
again.
Now is
Thank
when
you
we
so
really
much.
need everybody's support to
Yeah.
make this match.
Definitely.
Yeah, and now is the most important time to show your support because you can have the most impact on your community.
Yeah.
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 Thank you.
We'll spread the
Thank you.
word.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Next on the agenda is an appointment to the Connecticut River Joint Commissions. And we have been asked by Kathy Urffer to appoint her as Brattleboro's representative on the Wetastoquet Local Region Subcommittee of the Connecticut River Joint Commissions. And the Connecticut River Joint Commission, as you can tell, is a joint between Vermont and New Hampshire, and the Vermont legislature and the New Hampshire legislature, I think, have representatives, and then they have citizen reps. And Kathy is asked if we would appoint her as Brattleboro's rep. And Kathy is currently the River Steward at the Connecticut River Conservancy. That's her paid position, but this is a volunteer position, and she's offered, since this is what sort of in her wheelhouse, she would like us to appoint her. I don't know if anybody on the select board has any questions or comments about appointing Kathy.
Would there, I guess my only question was, would there be any potential conflict between her volunteer role and her paid role? I'm not sure, that's,
I think it's,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think so
I don't think
because
so.
Okay.
it's more of a confluence.
okay.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah, that's a good word, confluence.
I'm trying to make a pun, but it's not very funny.
You were close.
It's a confluence because I think she goes to a lot of these meetings anyway.
Okay.
And she's an expert with water issues, so I think she'd be a great representative to Brattleboro.
Okay.
If someone else were to come forward, we could certainly
consider that. And I think she's not, I don't know how she would benefit in some kind of, not like unseemly way, but you know what I mean? I think it would, we're the ones I think get the benefit out of her experience for doing it, but that's a very good question. Does anyone else on the board have any questions or comments about appointing Kathy Urffer? Does anyone in the public have any questions or comments about appointing Kathy Urffer as Brattleboro's rep? Oh yeah, Terry.
Just in relation to what I'm about to talk about, I fully support her. We're already in communication, and I think she may make an excellent catalyst in relation to the subject I'll be talking about.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Would somebody like to make a motion then?
I move that we nominate Kathy Urffer for appointment as a volunteer Brattleboro representative on the Wantasticate Local Region Subcommittee of the Connecticut River Joint Commissions.
We have a motion to nominate Kathy Urffer as the volunteer Brattleboro representative on the Wantasticate Local Region Subcommittee of the Connecticut River Joint Commissions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is a subject that has a solution. Woo! Even before we're going to talk about it. And as Terry was just saying, and actually thanks to Terry, thank you. Terry has been talking about the issue of the tires that are in the wetlands between Putney Road and the West River. And it was in the paper, and you've come to meetings, and I think you talked about it at town meeting. And Kathy Urffer, in her role as the river steward at the Connecticut River Conservancy, stepped forward. And I know she's spoken with Steve Barrett, she's spoken with you, she's spoken with Lori Callahan and a couple other people who are dealing with the river. And they've come up with a solution that the Connecticut River Conservancy, during one of their cleanup days, is going to come and clean up the tires in September. And I know they've been talking to Terry to make sure they were doing it at a time that wasn't going to disturb wildlife. So it sounds like there's a solution. It's sort of actually satisfying to know that was a problem, that a solution has come about. And, so I think we need to thank Terry for bringing it to people's attention.
Yeah.
And thanking Kathy Urffer.
The comment in this wetland right now is a pair of Menzinger ducks that in the Audubon Society, they're not super rare, but they're fairly rare, and they're nesting right now in the area. But this is a very popular area with the Audubon Society.
Those are special ducks.
They have mohawks.
Yeah, they do. There's
Mohawk ducks.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I think according to what Kathy sent to us, a memo, the cleanup will happen in September. And I think she promised to keep us all updated, so if there's any way people can help, that we can sort of loop everybody in. But I think it's a positive thing that's happened.
Might actually be fun.
Yeah, it could be.
You don't mind?
Yeah, satisfying, if nothing.
Yeah.
I have to give a shout out to Terry and Maria Dominguez, who made a video that I watched some of.
Stop hiding.
But it was really nicely done. So,
Yes, she's hiding.
Oh,
behind me.
good. Nice job.
Behind the scenes is.
Thanks, Maria.
Yeah. Now, does anybody out in the public want to comment on this in any way? Come on.
Are we talking about the tires?
Yeah, the tires. I figured that's why you were here, but I didn't want to point you out.
There's something about the tires that I'm going to talk about.
Oh, this is what I was talking about. Do you want to add more to it?
Yeah, I thought, I had a whole thing I wanted to do a presentation there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if
It's brief, but
Okay, that'd be good.
there's information that
Okay.
I think is
Okay.
relevant.
Okay.
See, I thought we were still talking about Kathy.
Oh, no, we're talking about the tires. So I figure we have a solution to the problem, but if you want to give us a brief thing.
I
Okay.
just want to fine tune some stuff.
Okay,
And, yeah, thank you.
okay.
Yeah, as a town rep, and for people, that are citizens, I feel it is imperative that there be transparency. And while I appreciate all the publicity, there was some misleading information that I just wanted to clarify. And for a number of years, a lot of us have been walking down this path, and I myself and others started to notice tires starting to surface several years ago, and then in 2016 there were more, and then last spring in 2017 there was considerably more, and that's when I reported it to the town. And that's when Mr. Moreland gave me this link. And with anything like this, this is separate, for the state to actually enforce its own regulations, it's imperative that all of us participate. And the link is very helpful because you can report it. And the link for the Department of Environmental Conservation is http://dc.vermont.gov/enforcement/reporting. And another thing that was a little misleading, and that is dumping. I highly challenge the fact that a lot of it tires have been there a long time, but this closed business tend to be the one that was getting the brunt of everything, when I believe 2 active businesses in the area continue to dump. And I know within the last year, up on the embankment with a business up on Putney Road, there have been more tires thrown over the side, and I believe there's photos in the Reformer of them with some nutty person laying on top of them. I don't know who she was, but also this spring in February, I took a photograph of tires that had been dumped over the side near the boatyard, and the tires are splayed on top of the ice, which indicated that this was very recent, besides the fact I was very familiar with the area. And they had dumped tires before, and I have photographs of it of the previous year. But these were more tires, and they, like I say, a number of them were splayed right on top of the surface of the ice. And I believe I sent an image of this to you.
You did.
This earlier today. And the letter next to my letter in the Reformer today made a really good point, which is another component, and that is affordable, viable option for tire disposal or related mechanical items, particularly non-biodegradable fluids used with mechanical vehicles. He pointed out that this is, farmers and industrial people have been just doing this indefinitely, and there should be a source where they can have, dispose of these items and have it be affordable, or even some sort of incentive where they don't even have to pay. But that's another component that is very important. And the reason it is this is not just a Brattleboro issue. I've showed you this book before. It's called 10 Billion. And it's written by a computational scientist from Oxford University, Dr. Amat. And 10 billion is what the world population is going to be in 2050. And this is an excellent source because there's graphs, there's charts, there's statistics, but it shows the correlation between what we're extracting from the planet, our natural resources, in relation to what is currently being put in the air and in the oceans, in relation to world population, but also massive extinctions. And myself and a number of people have noticed, particularly in this area and along the West River Trail, less insects, less turtles, and they're an integral part of the whole ecosystem. But this is for citizens of the planet, and we as humans, need to change our mindset and think globally, but act locally. And I can't emphasize this book enough. I ordered it through everyone's books. It's easy to read, and it's concise, and it really helps you connect the dots on a number of levels. It's an excellent source. And let's see, I'm almost done. But there is, a far more of an urgency than any mainstream media would lead you to believe. And I can't emphasize it enough. And all of us can take some sort of grassroots action. We can't storm the UN, we can't storm the Capitol, but in our own way, we can, be a catalyst in the impact. And I have tremendous faith in this wonderful community here. And also, again, I want to emphasize that public pressure works wonders. And that's why I'm going to share the link one more time for the state. http://dc.vermont.gov/enforcement/reporting/. And I appreciate this opportunity, but I would love input from the board in relation to more about what Kathy is talking about, but also what I had pointed out, an option where people can bring their tires and not have to pay a fortune, apparently. That is part of the big problem, apparently. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We have somebody here who knows something about tires.
Yeah, is anyone else in the public would like to comment, make a comment? Terry, do you want to go back over to the chair? Do you want to go back over to the chair? I just don't want I want everybody to be on equal.
No,
footing.
I'm being the wise.
Okay.
First off, I'm Dan Dietz, current operator and owner of Brattleboro Tire, which I think is in the front yard of where Ms. White is insinuating that we're continually dumping tires, and I'd like to address that. In the 38 years that I've been an employee of Brattleboro Tire before being an owner, I could say that there has been no active dumping of tires at that particular embankment. I mean, I'm sure it's been common practice in the 60s or 70s that you find a bank and throw them over, and that was probably what happened. That Brattleboro Tire has been a garage for well over since the 50s, so I can't speak for what the previous owners had done, but I can state that that's not a current practice, that we are operating within the Agency of Natural Resources guidelines. I regularly attend meetings about hazardous chemicals and how to properly dispose of them, as well as tires. It's considered a hazardous waste. So I'm well informed of it, and I do not actively dump. So I just wanted to state that and, say that I feel that it's my backyard, that I would like to be part of the cleanup, and I have been in the past. I've Last year, I pulled up probably 250 tires out of there. I think there's a retaining wall in that embankment that's been built out of tires years and years ago, that it gets eroded and they uncover. I think that might be what's going on there. The gentleman I spoke with from the Agency of Natural Resources, and I don't recall his name, when I talked to him about cleaning some of it up, he informed me that I shouldn't go in the water. If I could reach him from the shore, I could pull him out with a grapple hook or something, but not to go in the water to disturb the wetlands, so hasn't been done. But that's
Can I
where
ask
we
you a
stand.
question?
Sure.
Where do used tires go to die, basically? What is?
There's a few different options for that. A lot of them get recycled.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're renting a car in a foreign country, a third world country somewhere where they don't have guidelines like we do about safety and regulations, you might be driving a rental car that has tires that got recycled and brought over there that have very minimal life left in them, but they don't care and they just put them on their cars. A lot of it gets chipped up. They get ground up in a grinder, used as landfill liner, like big dump. They'll put in a liner and then they'll use crumb rubber as cushion. A lot of it gets used in incinerators, gets burned literally as fuel to fire asphalt plants. And they also use it in asphalt to like dilute it for roads.
Yeah, 'cause I
So,
think that people
so
that
they grind it up and bury it in the ground as a landfill liner. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah,
commonplace.
yeah.
We've got a little article about it if you'd like to see it. But I pay a recycler to come in and take out my storage bins, and they get stored. So
Now, had
they're
you
all
heard,
enclosed.
have you heard before we just talked about this, what the Connecticut River Conservancy is offering to do in coming cleaning up? You
No, I
haven't heard that?
hadn't heard.
Okay.
Nobody contacted me
Okay.
as to, to interview me for the newspaper article.
Okay.
Or any of the other
Okay,
correspondence. Nobody
Okay.
came and said, hey,
yeah.
Just sort of-
'Cause-
they're pointing a finger up the hill. But
Yeah,
That's breaking news.
yeah, and the Connecticut River Conservancy thing came yesterday. So what we'll do, maybe
I'm familiar with Kathy Urffer, and I've actually participated as a Rotarian in river cleanups.
Yeah,
Up and down the Connecticut River in the past.
Yeah.
So,
well,
this is right in my backyard. I'd love to help.
yeah, because I think one way or another, I don't know if it's, but well, Peter can make sure that you folks are connected and she knows, because she emailed this to us yesterday. But we'll make sure the right people are connected.
Awesome.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
There's plenty of room on the cleanup team.
Yeah, we can all just clean. Yeah, Terry.
Yeah, and I'll respect, and I appreciate you talking. I just want to, challenge a little what he said. I was, took photos last year, and there certainly are a bunch of old tires on the embankment, but this spring, there's probably about a dozen, and they're much darker than the rest. A lot of those tires, you can tell, they're half buried, they're a little discolored, and they've been there a while. But I don't think it's unreasonable for me to say there has been some fairly recent tire dumping, and I would be more than happy to go down there with you and show you what I'm talking about.
So, got pictures of last year when I cleaned it all up down the base of the hill there.
Okay, well, no, I would be more than willing. I'll come by your place sometime.
But the key thing is, though, we don't know where those tires came from, so we can't blame one particular person, because we don't know.
Well, I'm not here to place blame.
Okay.
I just wanted to get the record straight, because
Right.
you got the impression that the state just recently heard, and you got the impression that
Yeah.
this was stuff that happened back in the dinosaur era.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to update, the public and my representatives to clarify what my and some other citizens' experience is with this.
Yeah, I totally get it. I just want to make
Okay.
sure we're not attributing a certain source
No,
to
no,
the
no.
tires.
No,
'cause
no,
we
no.
don't know where they're coming from. But-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Terry.
Yeah.
So does anyone else in the public have any comments or questions, or anyone else on the select board? We have no action to take. I'm assuming we'll connect Kathy with the right people, and if people in the public are watching this right now and want more info, either call the town manager's office or call Kathy Urffer, because I think they'll be doing this in September, and it's a good thing.
Yeah. Look what's next. Next trip.
So thank you, everybody. Next up is the fire truck, and we are being requested to authorize to proceed with the purchase. And we are asked to do this earlier than we normally would do, because if we buy or put the order in for the fire truck now, we will save money, which is something we always want to do. And this was the fire truck that we were authorized to purchase at town meeting on March 24th. So you want to
Yeah, so
go
I'd
more
like
into
to,
detail than that?
I'd like to give a little bit fuller overview, and then if you have details that you need from the fire department, both the chief and the assistant chief are here. You're right that we're here sooner than we expected. We're also here for a part of the business of buying the truck tonight, and we would have preferred to have been before you to do the whole piece of business at one time. But the borrowing decision, we won't have all the information that we need for you to choose between the bond bank or borrowing from a local bank until at least in May. And on May 1st, as you pointed out, that the price is going to increase because of what's changing in the international market for steel. And so in order to avoid the price increase of 30-something thousand, I believe. Actually, $26,150 additional cost would be imposed upon us if we wait and place this order after May 1st. And so we're asking you to authorize us to go ahead and place the order now. One of the things that we had to work out with the company that we'd be buying from is we don't have sufficient cash to actually pay upfront for it all. When you'll recall from when we bought fire trucks in the past, that you pay in advance and then you get a performance bond. So we do get guaranteed that by paying in advance, we're not taking a risk with that money. We're going to get a fire truck. But we also, because they get the use of our money during the year that they're actually constructing the truck, we get a discount on the price of the truck. And so that's where the $30,000 figure comes in, is there's actually a savings that we can achieve when we pay in cash in the summertime. Actually, that's the $26,150. I should let you speak to the savings we're going to achieve with the going on May 1st. But the bottom line is, so there's two different things going on. Is we order the truck now. We beat the May 1st deadline. We'll be back to you in May with the information about the smartest way to borrow the money so that it's least cost in the long run for the town. And then by paying by July 15th, they're going to let us pay by July 15th. That's how we're going to achieve the savings. Order it by May 1st, pay by July 15th, and then we'll get credit as if we had paid in full at the time of the order. The rest of it is going to proceed in the normal manner. The truck has been would be purchased in accordance with the competitive bidding that was done by the Houston Galveston group purchasing program that we bought the last fire truck from. That gets better pricing because of the economy of scale involved with lots of fire departments across the country buying through that program. And then that sets the base price through the competitive bidding. And then there are additional things that are added to the truck to meet our particular specifications for what we need here in Brattleboro that come up to the total cost. The total cost, counting the discount, would be slightly under the $950,000, $947 and change. That was authorized by town meeting to be expended for the truck.
And a key point of news is we did not get the grant.
Yes, right. So the other thing that makes this, while it's coming to you sooner than we expected, it's not a rushed decision that would potentially have negative consequences, right? We are not putting ourselves in a position to become ineligible for the grant. Unfortunately, we were advised within the last 10 days that we are not being granted the 50% of the purchase price that we had applied for.
And does the chief want to say something? Yes.
Just to clarify, Peter's right. We'll save 26,000 and change by ordering before May 1st, and we'll save 37,000, almost 38,000 by paying before July 15th. So in all, we save well over $50,000 with that combination.
Now,
Thank you.
is the price, I'm sorry, I don't mean to just jump in, but I just did, I'm sorry.
Anyway.
The purchase price that you were given by Pierce, which is a company you're suggesting we go through, was $985,000. Is that right? And then the discounted price is going to be $947,000.
Yes.
So, but we're not. So isn't that only saving? I guess it's saving $38,000, right?
That's the discount we're getting.
Okay, but we're saving on top of that.
We're saving on top of that because they expect the price of steel to go up by May 1st because of everything that's going on nationally.
Okay,
And
so
that's what we're trying to beat, is that increase in steel prices.
okay, so how much?
That's the additional 26.
So we're not going to be paying 947. We're going to be paying 920.
Nope.
Oh, I'm confused.
Yep, sorry. So the 947 would actually go up by $21,000, $26,000, I'm sorry.
Oh,
By
okay.
$26,000 if we don't place the
Oh, I see.
the order before May 1st.
Okay.
So in order to avoid that
Right, I
and stay
gotcha.
under our 950 that we're allowed to spend for the truck,
Right.
we're asking that you authorize it.
I got excited because I kept hearing 2 discounts. I love it. It's less than.
There were 2
Okay,
discounts,
okay.
but they don't bring us down below 947.
Right,
We're still
okay.
at 947.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, does anyone else have?
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. The, Mike, what's the bid, or the base price is $817,000, so is there $130,000 worth of stuff that we want them to put on there above the base? Like hoses, pumps and?
Pumps, water tank, comes with NFPA required equipment, ladders. One of the things that we're doing with this truck is we spec'd it as a single rear axle to shorten up the wheelbase. That costs a little bit more. So it's options. Basically, we have a 100-page spec, probably about 100 pages worth of specs, which some of it is very traditional and very, not traditional, but very normal. Others is stuff that we put on. This truck very much mirrors what we had to take out of service, the 91 truck, other than the short wheelbase.
So it obviously makes it more maneuverable.
Yes.
How much, and you mentioned too that the aluminum, if it gets hot too often, it compromises its strength.
Right.
I'm surprised that they would ever use it, if that's the case. I'm wondering, do we have to go with the single axle? What would we save if we went with the other? I'm worried that we're getting more than we absolutely need. So I need,
I say no. No, I
Well, I
think
knew
this
that.
truck is very well suited for this town. I think that if you saw in the news last week, one of Boston's aerials, it was an aluminum ladder, collapsed during a fire.
oh, great.
And that's exactly why we go steel is, Boston, obviously, the bigger cities can replace their ladders every 7 to 10 years. We can't do that. And unfortunately, they didn't quite get this one replaced before this one collapsed.
And yet, my other question was, how much, if we borrow now instead of toward the end of the year to pay off the, to pay off the note that or to pay off when the truck is done. We had talked a lot about that we wouldn't be, if we ordered it takes a year to build, so we could save some money by not having to borrow right away. And now we're looking at borrowing money. So what's the debt service?
Yeah, there's no change there. Actually, it wasn't that we wouldn't borrow right away. It was that if we do go through the bond bank, the first year is going to be interest only.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we budgeted the $15,000 for the first year. and
So
then-
it's 15,000.
Yeah, and that's still expected to be accurate, although the final word on that will be when the bonds go to market. We think we may actually be able to beat that, although we don't know, and that's why we can't make a recommendation to you tonight about the financing. But we may be able to beat that with a bank loan. If we do, it could have an impact on the timing of the debt service, but we would only accommodate that adjustment in the timing in order to actually save money in the overall purchase of this expensive piece of equipment.
But we weren't going to borrow later and therefore pay.
No, we were
nothing
never
for
going to
us
borrow
this
later.
year.
We always anticipated capturing that discount that's available for prepaying.
Right.
Because again, you get the certainty you're going to get the vehicle by having the performance bond that you get in exchange for the prepayment.
Okay, thanks.
And the reason that the companies that build these do that is, unlike an auto manufacturer where they're rolling cars off every day, these folks are building a
One
few
at a
fire
time.
engines at a
Yeah.
time, and they need the cash from the purchasers to buy all the materials that go into making the trucks.
Sure. Does anyone else have any questions? Anyone in the public have any questions about us putting the order in? Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll move to authorize the town manager to place an order to purchase a new aerial ladder truck from Pierce Manufacturing through the Houston Galveston Areas Council HGAC buy program in an amount not to exceed $950,000.
We have a motion to authorize the town manager to place an order for the new aerial ladder truck. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Go get that truck.
Next up, we have the annual readoption of the town's local emergency operations plan. And I think the chief is going to talk about this.
So this is a annual reoccurring item that comes before you each year. We need to update the town's emergency operations plan. The base template is included in your packet, just so you get an idea of the beginning of it, and then there's multiple annexes that are attached to this and kept on file at the state, as well as all the emergency services keep a copy to refer to in a large-scale emergency. And I'm just here tonight to ask you to adopt the 2018 operations plan and authorize the town manager to sign it. We will then file it with the Wyndham Regional Commission, who will approve it and then pass it on to the state. That's going to be done by May 1st.
Does anyone have any questions? I'm assuming nothing has really changed in it. It's just what we've always been seeing.
Right, it's still fairly similar. Still fairly similar to what you've seen in the past. Each year we get it updated, names, phone numbers, changes in our operations. One of the bigger things we've built out a little bit this year is actor-shooter scenarios.
Yeah.
New crises that happen in the world, but it's very much the same as you've seen in the past.
Great, thank you.
That's a disappointing addition.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Someone like to
Just
make a motion?
it also gets reviewed by the the state emergency management and the regional planning commission.
Yep. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go for it, Shanta.
Make a motion to adopt the 2018 Brattleboro Emergency Operations Plan and to authorize the town manager to certify that the plan has been duly adopted by the board.
We have a motion to adopt the 2018 Brattleboro Emergency Operations Plan. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is follow-up from representative town meeting. And what we've done, we'll do it this year, we did it last year, I'm assuming we did it the year before, is there are issues that came up at town meeting that we want to make sure we're keeping track of and figuring out what action that's necessary that we need to take or we want to take. So the town manager has put a list in our packet, and I'm just going to read them, and then I'll let, well, if there's anything we can't figure out, we'll talk about it. So these are issues that came up The purchase of all electricity for town facilities from renewable sources such as Green Mountain Power's COW Power Program. That's the first thing. Second item is to provide free childcare at future informational meetings and town meetings. The second is allocate 1% of the general fund to Human Services Review Committee's recommendations. Fourth is to consider returning to primary seating arrangement or prior seating arrangement for representative town meetings. Fifth is review the implications of the open meeting laws vis-a-vis the social media communications among representative town meetings, reps. And six is to provide recycling and compost collection containers at future town meetings. And the seventh, which was not there, which was the 350 Vermont ballot initiative. Correct. That was on the March 6th ballot. All of these came up in one way or another, whether it was at the end. Most of them, I think, came up at the end of the meeting. I know this. So some of them, I don't know, we have to decide how we want to act on them, what we want the town's staff to do. I know some of them, like reviewing the open meetings law about social media, that's, I think, happening. Yep. So I don't know if Peter wants to go through and just go, something's happening with this, something isn't.
Sure. Yeah, so I'd also like to offer just one comment on the distinction between, there's sort of three separate categories here, and I didn't make that clear in the materials I gave to you, so I want to make that clear tonight for your discussion, that the one that I left off, that I should have started the list with, that was the ballot item from March 6th, that was adopted and adopted overwhelmingly by a vote of all the registered voters in town. So that's one status. It is advisory, explicitly advisory to you, but it was adopted in that very formal manner. All of these are actually understood to be advisory, but I want to make clear that one came from a vote of hundreds of people, a couple of thousand people. The cow power item, the first one on your list in the memorandum that's before you today, was advisory from the floor of representative town meeting during the other matters portion of the meeting by what was still a quorum of the meeting at that time. And each of the others were items that were discussed during that other matters, where there were suggestions made that there was additional review that would be that was being urged, or some action that was being urged for the select board or the town government to consider, but where there was no longer a quorum. So just for the sort of different levels of formality of what was presented to you. And then specific to the question that you've asked, we have some initial information about the cow power program. We anticipated, based on the fact that that did come to you from a quorum, that at some point in the summertime you might want to take a look at that, and we would have more complete information to bring to you at that time for you to make an informed decision about how to proceed. The childcare item is one that several of us work together, between people in the school, district staff, and myself, and some volunteers from the community, to do on a very informal basis for the town meeting this year. And the request is that it be done for the two informational meetings and the town meeting next year in a more structured manner. We can discuss that between now and budget time, or we can just discuss that at budget time if you'd like. It's going to be a relatively low-cost item. It's a question of whether or not you want to take on that responsibility and provide that service. And then the third item there was something that was discussed during the floor debate on this item, but was not acted upon. And then during the other matters, there was a brief discussion again of kind of a show of hands straw poll about whether or not to allocate 1% of the general fund budget to the human services component that is determined by representative town meeting based on recommendations from its Human Services Review Committee. The seating arrangement item was a comment that was made by an individual member, but I know others have received feedback, both pro and con, to that. And the question is, do we in any formal way want to give any further review to that or continue on? The social media piece, I believe that if you wish to give further review to that as a board, that we should provide information to you from Town Attorney Bob Fisher to help with that discussion. I think there's a fair question there as to whether you want to be the ones who dive into that or let that get sorted out by the members who are participating on social media. And then finally, number 6 is a real light lift that I think we all can see the reasonableness of, and we'd be happy to make happen.
Let's just get on that.
Yeah. So I think, you know, it's our decision on how we want to handle some of these things. I know that, and to be honest with you, I have not read the 350 thing since I voted on it in March, so I don't know if it's asking us to do anything specific that we need to carry out.
It's actually a variety of things, some of which are just asking that future decisions be considered within a context of sort of leaving light footprints. And then some of it is more, would require more proactive review. I think if you're going to take it as anything more than general guidance to future decision making, that you ought to have it in front of you for a future meeting.
Right. Well, that's what I'm wondering, if doing that and having a conversation on the cow power is something we should have, you know, bunch that together at one meeting so we can have an overall discussion about you know, energy efficiency and environmental, you know, sustainability issues. I don't know how everybody feels about that, because out of all of those, that and that seem to go sort of in partnership.
Well, they do. I think that it might be premature until the solar array is finished at the waste district and we see what percentage of our power is coming from that. Because I think when we signed to take the credits, I think we looked at around 80% of our needs, so we wouldn't take more credits than we used.
Yeah.
And if our needs, but our electricity needs have gone up, they don't go down, unfortunately. So it might be 70% by the time it's done, but I think we should look at that before we, and then look at what's the difference and how can we, you know, efficiently or with the lowest cost, get the rest of it from a renewable source. So that one I think we should put on hold for a while.
Okay. And what do you think by a while? Like summer?
I think until we got a year or more under the solar program to know really what we're talking about.
Okay.
Seems pretty.
Yep.
We could do both. We could also find out what it would cost to switch, because the motion, the vote from the floor was to address this pretty quickly, I assume.
With a quorum.
And is to switch over to cow power. So I would like to just hear, even if it's this summer, how much that would cost separate.
Yeah, we wouldn't know how much that is.
I totally would get what you're saying about that.
And I'm not sure that the town meeting reps knew that we had that much coming already. You know, already contracted for that.
That's a good point.
But if we can, you know, any information we get is fine.
Kurt, I knew you wanted to talk about this one.
I didn't even look, I just saw it out of the corner of my eye.
Then we'll go through the other ones.
Hi, Kurt.
Hi. I don't.
I wasn't done.
I'm sorry. Go
Sorry.
ahead. I'm sorry. Sorry.
I think with the open meetings law, I think it'd be wise for us to at least articulate what a quorum would be on, and what I think Bob somebody already put out something.
Hillary's working pretty hard on
Is
it,
that
I
what,
think.
I knew somebody was working on a way to articulate what we should know, so I think we should continue that work, because there's no guarantee that just whatever happens is actually the right thing.
But that's
'Cause
Hillary.
we do have, there
and
is
that's
a legal
Hillary
issue.
continuing that work.
I'm sorry?
Is that Hillary continuing that work?
Yeah. Okay. And then I think the prior seating arrangement, I think, I have a very strong opinion on that, because I think this past town meeting was very different than all the other ones when we were up on the dais, and it was much, and I know there are a lot of new people, and some of the curmudgeons that were famous for their abrasive styles aren't on in the meeting anymore, which helps a lot. And someday I'll be gone too, and then it'll be really fun. But the tone of that meeting and the quality of the communication and the work that got done was really unusual and pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's because we were all on the floor, but I think we at least need to try it for another year or two to see if in fact that was. To just say, yeah, we tried it 1 year, it was fun, a couple of people, it was nice, some people didn't like it, so we changed it. You know, there's no way we can get a consensus sense of the community. I think the only prudent thing to do is to try. I don't even know if we get to decide this really, because the school board as well. But I would like us to continue for a couple of years and see how, if it continues to be a better tone. And I mean, it may take longer when you engage people more thoroughly or more effectively, but
I'd rather.
small price to pay for the outcomes. I mean, just the 1% conversation by itself, never mind everything else that happened, was really astonishing.
The only thing, can I add
Yeah,
on to what you
yeah.
just said? The only thing I heard that carries some weight with me was keeping us on the floor but rotating us, because apparently there were square windows above us that when people were watching from home, they were going blind, they couldn't see us.
Oh,
So I
that
almost
is
wondered
good,
if
yeah.
about, and it's not
Turn
up to
over,
us,
yeah.
but I almost wondered about asking what people thought about it being on the floor in front of the stage, just to rotate away from windows. But otherwise, I liked it personally.
Oh, is this I'm not sure how you want to handle this. Is this a comment free-for-all for all
Yeah.
of these, or?
Well, let's
Chit-chatting.
do you want to just
We're chatting with Kurt.
do you want to talk about cow power?
I'm chatting free for all, yeah.
Okay. If you want to do cow power, do that, and then we're going to go back to the other one.
Okay. I think, David, you're a little bit off point about how the cow power resolution should be considered. It's really, of course, it's not an attempt to save money. And it will cost 4 cents more per kilowatt. But the mandate of the 350 resolution indicates that the people feel strongly enough about it that they want to invest in renewable energy. That is term number 2 of the somewhat vague state resolution. Number 2 of the second section says invest in renewable energy. The cow power program isn't just a way of changing your electricity. As a matter of fact, if we were to buy in at 100% of all our 134 electric accounts, no, 133, not counting the school, we would be paying $90,000 more a year, roughly what, $60 per person in the town. So it's not about saving money. It's about getting the momentum that people want on environmental issues. And not just for Brattleboro's benefit, but also to benefit the farmers who would be, not the farmers, but their cows, who would be generating the methane. That's a joke.
And I think this is,
And
okay, I was about to say, this is the discussion that we want to have at the meeting where we talk about this. You know what I mean? Because I think what we want to decide right now is how we're going to approach talking about it. And I think what Tim has said, we want to talk about it sooner rather than later to
yeah,
get the info. So,
To get numbers,
Yeah.
I don't doubt your numbers. I
Right.
just.
okay. I can forward to you the letter I have from Ms. Schnur of GMP
Yeah.
with all the accounts, and she says
Yeah.
$90,000 if we had
Yeah.
full participation.
Yeah.
Since we're in future only going to look at 20 or 30% because of the solar array giving us most of our electricity,
Yeah.
it would be $30,000 or $27,000.
yeah.
And
Because basically what I'm trying to say to you, Kurt, is we're going to put it on a future agenda
That you're
to
hopefully
talk
gonna come
about.
back to.
Does that
Okay.
make sense? I don't want you to think you have to argue with us on whether we're going to talk
That's
about
fine.
it.
Okay.
I think what we're trying to decide right now is what are we going to do with things. I think there's general agreement that we need to talk about.
yeah.
I see this is more administrative discussion.
Yeah,
Yes.
All right.
yeah. So we don't have to like debate the issue right now, but it will be on a future agenda.
Yeah. And you'll come
Does
back.
it? Do you know what I mean? That's what we're trying to decide.
June, July
Yeah.
timeframe acceptable to the board
It's acceptable
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Sounds
We
acceptable.
have
to
a
me.
lot going on in the
Yeah.
next couple
Yeah.
of months.
I think we need to be.
So it'll be
smart
June
about
and July, and we'll make sure that everybody knows. Yes, sir.
Hi, Junio Anthony Moody, District 2. I'm just here to say, the sooner the better for the cow power thing. The fact of the matter is, it's essentially one of these things that you can turn on or turn off with the utility as soon as you want to. I've been a cow power subscriber for since 2008 or 2009, and it's very straightforward to get it set up with the utility and take it off. And with the 130 separate accounts that we have, I went and looked through the spreadsheet that GMP, sent out. And every single one of those accounts essentially just has a column where it says, cow power yes or cow power no. All of them are blank right now. But, essentially, if the town wanted to just turn it on to, a certain number of the accounts real quick, it would be done like that. And ramping up, ramping down is something that they're very versed with and can do based on all the accounts we have. So it would be a great way to actually show that we're interested in going ahead with that resolution and doing our part of the 2030 challenge.
Great, thank you.
That was good information.
Come back in June or July when we have it on the agenda. We'll talk about it more. So thank you. Okay, so does everyone feel comfortable with that?
Yes.
And free childcare, do you want to talk about that at budget time? Is there any need to talk about that before
Not the
October?
select board meetings either, because it's so late. Like, I wouldn't take advantage of it personally, but I guess if you had older kids, maybe.
Yeah.
You would, but my kids are in bed by 7.
Okay. But can we like deal with, we don't have to figure that solution out now is my question.
I think, as Peter said, the district and the town are talking about it.
Yeah.
And we'll come up with a proposal.
So we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Madam Chairwoman?
Yes.
Why June or July for the cow power?
Because we have a lot on our agenda, and we have this tendency, we're trying to be honest with each other, that we have a long list of things that we have to accomplish. So we're going to add it to the list, but we can't. What we went through is we were meeting until 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
We were putting so much pressure on our town staff that we weren't accomplishing anything.
learned
So
that last
we just want to be really realistic on when we can get to it.
Cow power, climate change is an urgent issue.
It is, but we've got this giant list of things, so it's not for lack of not caring.
Right.
It's that,
It's actually for caring very much, though. We learned some things last year that we need to
yeah, we need to pace ourselves.
pay attention to.
Yeah.
We can't keep staff here till 11.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how we address the allocation of the 1% to the human services budget, because that's a larger budget question.
I do love the
So-
idea of a,
When we get the budget time,
Yeah.
we'll decide whether
Yeah.
we want to set that as
Yeah.
the spot.
Yeah, so that's a budget question. Representative town meeting seating,
I
that's
had
really,
a couple comments on that.
Yeah.
If
yeah.
we're back into the overall.
Oh, yeah.
Taking. So I'm not a fan of it. I did talk to Core Trowbridge at BCTV, and I pointed out that the unfortunate thing for anyone watching at home was that in the shot that was set up, you could not see the select board standing or sitting or anything. They were off camera, and that was sort of necessitated by the arrangement, it seems. That was tough, because that sort of like prevented anybody watching from home being able to see how their select board is actually voting on each issue, which is always at least of, academic interest, if not true democratic interest. And the other thing I noticed is that, and there were several comments about this afterward, that the representatives couldn't see the select board unless they were standing up. So I think the idea of having the select board elevated is not, you shouldn't think of it as we are above anybody. It's that we should be kept an eye on. You should be able to see the reactions that we're having. And I think a lot of the representative meeting members couldn't see expressions, etc., unless that person was standing up, and the only person standing up was the person giving the motion, right?
No, yes. Or when we spoke,
voted.
we stood up.
Right, which was good.
Which I found was interesting, because it wasn't until the school board came that I went and sat in the back in the regular seats. I couldn't see anybody on the school board.
they didn't
Right.
stand up for their votes.
Yeah.
So I was a participant
any
in
votes.
noticing, I can't see anybody, so I was glad
Yeah.
we were standing,
Yeah.
because I realized you can't see anybody.
So, I mean, I think that this all came about with sort of a desire to not have anyone elevated, but I think if you're elevated, you're also a target, so, you know,
Yeah.
of criticism, et cetera. So, if I understand what David's saying about, giving it a couple of years, but I think there were some problems with the arrangement. So I just hope that can get taken into account.
And that's,
And I know this was the super easy one, so I don't want to
oh yeah, go ahead.
belabor it, but the number 6, I'm under the impression that different organizations take turns selling things at the lunches.
I think we have a new one this year.
It's the students groups that are going like on a trip.
Yeah.
So, and it's, I know this because my sisters helped provide the food. Like the kids, they all make the food or they buy the food. But they are all responsible because of, they have to have it all wrapped and stuff. So it's just not like a thing of brownies where someone can sneeze on. So it's one of those situations where we have to think of who we're burdening. It's going to be.
Well, that's entirely my point.
Yeah.
Is I think just encouraging recyclable and compostable or whatever is a little better than having a mandate.
Yeah, because it's kids. It's like 8th and 9th graders or 10th graders.
I agree.
I'd like to address the other side of that, because this came up several years ago at the farmers market, because we have a lot of food going, well, just everything, there's all kinds of packaging. And without much difficulty and without really much additional expense, we were able to get rid of everything that's not compostable in an official facility that gets up to temperature. We've got corn straws, we've got corn plastic lids now. There are all kinds of wrapping papers that are available, and it's not the kind of burden that it has been in the past to find those materials. And I'm certain that the faculty advisors to whichever group that is are more than competent to find those and set those guidelines up. I mean, I think it's part of the culture of this community to try and recycle at every opportunity, and for us to say, well, but not the kids, I think their response would be pretty negative to that as well.
Oh yeah.
Just suggesting not
mandatory.
requiring,
Yeah.
to encourage. That's all.
And wherever the board lands on that particular question on the inputs, I just wanted to clarify that when I suggested earlier that it was just so obvious and it would be automatically do it, that I was talking about the containers to receive.
To receive.
So the fact that we only had garbage containers
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And the school has all the rest in all the other places.
That's what I figured.
Except that day.
Yeah. No, that's the simple part.
Yeah, exactly.
And I personally don't want to like mandate that a kid has to have a recyclable thing as opposed to like, because there was these kids that really was sort of, they were wrapping it in the like saran wrap and they put a little bow on it, but I get if the school can help the kids, but I personally as a select board person don't want to take a vote to mandate a kid to put their.
No, I think if we communicate to those faculty advisors that's or to the kids, if you know them, that we had this concern, and would they take it into account, and they can decide.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to. Definitely don't have to mandate it, but we
And
definitely want the
you know what, David, too, some of these things are for the school too, like the school board. Because number 6 shouldn't just be the select board telling the school kids use recyclable, you know what I mean? Like this.
Well, yeah, but it's the high school, and we have nothing to do with it.
No, but what I'm saying is the town meeting is not just a select board town meeting, it's a school board town meeting.
Yeah.
So to me, the school board should take up that issue as well.
Well, it's
Do you know what I
interesting,
mean?
because
and
nobody ever thinks to bring it.
No.
You're absolutely right.
And the free
but
child.
You never see these.
And the free childcare is not just a town function because it's a.
Well, and it wasn't by any stretch just a town
Robin did.
function this time.
But it was a school board member that said the town needs to provide free childcare. So to me, these are that the free childcare is a mutual thing with the school because it's their town meeting too.
Yeah, no question.
The containers, what the kids do, is a school thing because it's their town meeting too. So I just sort of want to keep that in focus that we're just not. It's not just us guys.
I'd encourage you to send a letter to the school,
Well, can't you
the
bring
chair.
it up?
What's that?
Can't you bring it up?
Well, I probably could, but you brought it up, so why don't you follow up? Because it is true, but it's not.
It's only on
people think of it as it's the town's meeting, so they don't bring these concerns to to the school board. I doubt very much we'll hear that, even though we should. It is half of it's ours.
I'll be happy. I'm having communication
But that's
with
already
the
happening.
school staff regarding the childcare issues,
Yeah.
so I'll be happy to bring up the number 6 with them as well.
Great.
Just
Yeah.
coordinate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to talk about with this stuff? I think we're all set.
I think, yeah, we are. There's some things that are gonna just happen. There's a couple of things that are gonna come up at the budget, and then the one that's gonna get specially scheduled is gonna be the summertime consideration on the energy and sustainability question.
Yeah. Does that make sense to everybody? Do we know where we are for that?
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to have our annual update on the comprehensive review of town operations and the, no, we're just doing that. We're not doing long-term financial plan, just the
Correct.
CRTO.
That'll come in the summer.
Yeah.
So on the CRTO, if I may,
Yeah.
launch in, we provide this as informational update to how we're progressing. We do make tweaks to it each year. Last year, we actually added a couple of things. This year, we're not suggesting that any items be added or deleted, but we are modifying the particular statement related to a number of the items. I think the most important thing, and then I'll be happy to speak to any particular item or other aspects of this that you might find helpful. But I wanted to note that this was a very productive year for us. The not just as reflected here in the CRTO, but in also the discussion you're going to have about the select board's goals in a few minutes. Compared to my first 2 years here, and compared to my understanding of what's been historically true, the board accomplished a far greater proportion of the annual goals that you established a year ago this year. And likewise on the CRTO, which is somewhat reflects things that we work on together, but to a great degree reflects on staff actions. We made progress on 19 of the items this year, which was more progress than a year ago when we were in our first year of this. We got some momentum this year. We had some pretty significant items that we moved forward with. You had last year approved the information technology plan. And we implemented that this year. So our IT situation now is much more secure and modernized and functional in a way that was really desperately needed. That goal has been achieved. Updating and synchronizing the collective bargaining agreements with the 4th of the 4 agreements completed just within the last month or two. We have achieved that goal. Increasing the funding to improve safety for pedestrians and bicyclists was a goal of the established in the CRTO. We took a small step towards that last year and then a huge step this year with additional funding for sidewalk repair and replacement, as well as the funding at representative town meeting of the additional sidewalk plow. We have decided, together with you, we brought you a recommendation, the select board approved it, to sort of judiciously increase the oversight of the large capital improvement projects. So we considered whether there would be a sort of a more concrete system by which we would put more eyes on capital improvement projects. What we determined with a careful look at that is that in many cases, even a larger budget for a project has a relatively simpler character to it. And so the large budget items don't always need additional oversight, but sometimes they do. And so on a case-by-case basis, we're hiring people. The best example, the most sort of visible example has been the use of Steve Horton on the police fire projects. We use that model and hire an additional set of eyes to protect the town's interests on certain of the larger projects, and then we continue to manage others of the larger projects ourselves. We have increased our communication between town officials and Vermont state government, both about issues directly related to the town of Brattleboro and about broader statewide issues. And we have improved our workers' compensation procedures and our case management, which is hopefully going to, it did have an initial positive impact on our experience this year in terms of workers' comp claims, but we hope to sustain that and continue to improve that because we need to bring down our workers' comp expenses. So those are the main things. Those all moved from in progress to being goals that we accomplished this year. There were 13 other items that we progressed on to move, sort of forward in the implementation process. And we did one thing different in looking ahead at 3 items that were not among those we made progress on this year, but recognizing that we're now a couple of years into this process, and there's a couple of things that really need our attention so as to be a higher priority to make progress on this coming year. On page 8 of the document, the first 3 items listed under the short-term goals all have a new note underneath them saying this is a high priority for 2018 because we believe that the 2 capital items we really need to get to now. There was some discussion at representative town meeting about the recommendation before the body seemed reasonable. Of course, they approved it, and added to it for that matter. But then they looked at the out years and they said, well, how can we ever afford that kind of money for the out years? Well, we know from dealing with that more closely that the out years are not a realistic schedule. They're an identification of things that need to be addressed, but not on a realistic schedule or with a realistic budget. We need to correct that and be honest with ourselves either about the need to increase funding for capital investment or to spread out over a longer period our expectations for when we're going to replace equipment and get to projects. And so those first 2 items both relate to that. The first one to equipment, the second one to projects. And then the third is we get a lot of feedback from folks about the town being behind on the availability of credit card processing for a wide variety of the services that we provide. And we believe that the time has come to address that. In many cases, we think it's not going to be an expensive fix. It's just something we need to pay enough attention to put a proper system in place, make it more convenient for citizens to access the government.
Are parking meters part of that, or parking
You'll be
access
getting
part of that too?
yes, sir. So the parking study is going to come to you at the next meeting. In the presentation of the parking budget, we're going to have some information to share with you about how we can move in that direction with the parking system. We may not be able to do everything at one time because of the price tag attached to that.
But know if it was in there.
But we'll be able to help you decide how fast to move on that piece of it. Yep.
Please.
That's everything I wanted to share with you by way of highlights. If you have questions or concerns about it, I'd be happy to address them. Otherwise, our intent is to share this as a progress report with you and the community so that hopefully it provides some help and some perspective as you go through the goal setting process that you're about to take.
Does anyone have any comments or questions?
I had a bunch of little notes here, and they don't necessarily need a response, but at some point I'd like to get a report from the Traffic Safety Committee about actions. We've got the calming plan, and that's been just what actions have been taken, not now, but at some point it'd be nice to hear about that. And communication with the state government. We used to meet, not yearly, well, it's been like a few years in a row. We would have a meeting, we would sit down with the legislators and talk about issues that and sometimes it was at the beginning of the session, sometimes it was in the middle. But we haven't done that in a long time.
Do you want to have them in?
We never get a debrief from them,
We actually once went up and talked to the governor, remember?
Well, yeah, we went up to, that was valuable.
Yeah. Well, we got something from that. We got money.
And then the in-progress things, on page 6, continuing to implement the energy efficiency improvements in town facilities. For the next budgeting process, I'd like to see us get explicit about what's the next building we're going to undertake and how much we're going to put into it.
Sure.
We were pretty active for a while, and then last year we did a roof and windows and stuff, but we've got some big projects ahead, and so I wanted to get that back on the list and see where we're going to invest. As I've said a zillion times, the energy efficiency is the only money that we actually invest that we get a return on. The rest of the money, we just spend it. It's gone. But this is a way that we can actually generate some, or reduce taxes by
And can I
that
echo
investment.
something about that too?
Yep.
It would be helpful if we saw what that energy, the energy efficiency audit remind us, like if we could get that.
Exactly what I was just thinking.
Yeah,
So if
great.
it's okay with the board, I think the way to do that, and you would do it informationally in the summer meeting, and then you might give us some direction about what things you want to look at in the budget process. But instead of waiting until budget for that, when we address the Cal Power and the
Take a whole look.
350 Vermont resolution, I think that'd be a great time for us to just itemize for you what was recommended in the audit, what's been already addressed,
Yeah, that'd be
and
good.
what remains to be addressed.
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
We'll have an energy meeting.
And on page 7, the succession planning for all departments, obviously that's going to be much better done or much more easily completed with this HR person. But it doesn't mention recruitment in terms of either additional people or people of color or people that would have the skills to become a department head at some point.
Right.
And I know it's an ongoing effort as a part of the coalition as well.
Right.
But,
And addressed actually more explicitly in your goals than in the CRTO.
Great,
Yep.
okay. Then emergency preparedness, this is huge, and I'm not sure how we ever would get our arms around it, but one of the things that this community lacks is if something happened, like some long-term power outage happened, or some sort of, that sort of not an apocalyptic, but something that was, for weeks, there's no place where people can go that has an alternative source of energy or where water pumps would work, we don't have facilities in place to consider that level of emergency preparedness. So again, I don't know how we would approach it or when or what, how to do it.
On
but
that note, do we
just
have batteries for the solar array?
Batteries? Do you mean
Right, are we
storage
just
batteries?
dumping and net metering, or do we have storage batteries so that we're energy self-sufficient?
We don't
I
have,
believe
no.
there's storage.
We don't have, we don't have storage, but it's not our facility. I don't know what kind of storage they have.
No,
Yeah.
the solar, that
Grid.
array is hooked up to the grid.
It's
It
just
all
right
goes
to the
into the
grid.
grid and
Yeah.
is out. It probably doesn't get off Ferry Road.
Right.
Really, with CNS there, they probably use it all. But at any rate, so anyway, that was just kind of a large issue for us to take on. So anyway, I think that's it.
Does anyone else have any comments?
I have one odd thing that occurred to me. Have I read several years in a row that the existing salt shed will fall down? If
Yes.
you don't replace it?
You have.
Does anybody want to comment on that? Is it like really close to falling down? Or
Yeah,
is
it's
it-
really close to falling down. So, it hasn't fallen down yet. You have read it 3 years in a row.
I don't like.
I've heard it for
reading
5,
this.
listen.
2
It's
years in a
standing
row.
there by, it's
Yeah.
habit.
You ought to take
It's
a look
been there
at it.
since the fairground was
I
on
commit
the
myself to
fairground.
where it's.
Because it's
Don't
sad.
touch it though if you go, don't mess it up.
It really, it doesn't know what else to do. It's been doing it for so long, it just stands there. It's just a habit.
And you'll
Should
see,
that be in
there's
priorities?
places where it's been braced, and
Stop it.
I'm sorry.
I don't micromanage
The problem-
the salt shed, but.
Well, no, it's not
Maybe
micromanaging
we-
at all. There's a policy decision there. The reason why that hasn't been replaced yet is this was the year that we began the planning for what needs to happen to that whole facility. We need to come to you and let you know where we are with that, get some further direction from you about how to proceed. When we've got a plan for how the future upgrade of the Public Works headquarters is going to happen, we'll know where the salt shed needs to go, and then it should be the very highest priority for action because it is on its last legs.
If it changes to imminent next year.
Well, next year it'll be done underneath the salt. Peter, or maybe Jan, maybe you know this, do we have additional copies of that matrix study that was done, 15 years ago now? That laid out the plan for what should happen long-term at the Public Works and in terms of facility upgrades and stuff? Is that available to school?
Well before my time, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the work, that work has been done.
We've got it in PDF. We could distribute it.
Okay?
You'd have to make the
I think it'd be worthwhile, because
We
it's
can make
really
copies and we can
very
distribute it by
long-term
email.
look at all of these facilities and what really should happen over time. And off the charts cost-wise, no way they're gonna do it all at once, but a lot of this is already done.
Is it still relevant?
I
Or is
think,
it
well,
sort
I
of-
mean, there were things like let the trucks be able to drive in and out of the maintenance shed, stuff like that. And it was really nuts and bolts, and I think it probably is still relevant. I mean, the problems are the same. The buildings are the same buildings.
Yeah.
So I think it probably is.
Is there any other comments, questions? I just want to say thank you, because it helps us keep track of everything. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really.
Even though there's always something new that gets added.
Yeah.
Thank you for
That's the
comment.
nature of
We
it.
actually got some things done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, seriously, and it was a very
hoping Chris
busy,
got
very
that
productive year.
Now it's time to talk about the select board goals. And I'm going to say this for all of us, but Shanta's new to this. What we do, and David and I have been here now the longest, is at the beginning of every new term, we sit and we say, okay, what are our goals for the year? There was like maybe 2 years, David, where we had this giant list of goals and we didn't get any of them done because
We
other
didn't
things.
talk about them from one end of the year to the other.
So it's one of these lists that we do our best to say, here's what we'd like to do, and then stuff sometimes just happens that blows everything up in the water. So, and what's great is Peter's been giving us the list of here's what you did, here's what you didn't do, and basically feeding off one year from the other. So the list we have in our notebook is something that Peter put together with suggestions for us, and you'll see I think there's one that's the 2017 goals, and he's actually showed us what we did, makes us look good. And then the draft for 2018. And what I thought we would just do tonight is have a discussion about these. And, you know, if people feel like they want to vote on it tonight, or we want to just ruminate about it and put it on the next agenda for actual action. And the one thing, you know, I'm going to reiterate this again, is this is it's a living and breathing document. So just because something isn't there doesn't mean we don't do it. You know? So, if we want to talk about it now, if people want to just offer some suggestions, or we want to think about it and we'll put it on the next agenda for more conversation, however people feel. Brandy's
Well, I do
making
have a
things.
question.
Yeah.
Maybe, would goals, and this is maybe a silly question.
it's a
now.
newbie
Would-
We don't have any of those.
That was question stupid.
Would goals fall in line with previous set policies, like for example, the vote to become a compassionate town? Might there be a goal to like how does that work? Or
Yeah.
Good question.
because one of the things I've been thinking about is the whole idea to how to revisit that or remind everybody, or maybe think about a task force, or like how do we make sure that we really are being a compassionate town? So how might something like that fit into our goals?
Perfectly.
Perfectly, because one of the
Okay.
because the intent on the compassionate community was we were supposed to look every time we make a decision where it fits, was to go, is this fitting with what we said we are? So maybe it's
And I'm suggesting that maybe there might be some people who might be interested in the community to be like a part of a committee or task force to help the town have a toolbox for actually not being police and not saying you're not being compassionate, but just sort of to match with what we said we want to be, to maybe, and then obviously there's probably some more discussion around this, but I would like, I don't know how I'd suggest this, but maybe that could be a goal to work towards, not putting it just on us, but maybe hand it back to a group of people.
Yeah. And there is a group of people.
There's a committee.
I know there's a group of
Okay, I
people,
was-
yeah, no, I'm aware of them, they're the
Yeah.
ones that help to bring,
I can't remember.
yeah.
Yeah, Petersman, you've been working with them, or you were working with them when we were putting that resolution together. I mean, maybe something like the goal, we have to figure out how to word it, but
Sure.
would be to, you know, continue the work on becoming a compassionate community or something
Yeah.
like that.
Absolutely.
And then we can sort of figure
yeah.
out what that means.
And I
you
can
know?
even like, I know there's a more formal way to suggest items maybe down the line at some point. So
Whatever.
I could even, because there's someone who raised it and mentioned it to me, that's a good idea. And I've
Yeah.
been thinking about it. And so I could maybe formally submit something that we might think about how we, yeah.
Yeah, and we revisit, every 3 months, we have a look and see how we're doing, and Peter does a report to, for things we probably don't know about. And that would be a way to make it more than just we checked that box, great, we're compassionate now.
Absolutely.
On
And
the
I-
agenda, have them in or something.
Exactly, exactly. Right.
There's a finance committee that keeps, that kind of pays attention to the finances and does a report, a compassion
Community
community committee.
Well, and
Nice.
I also bring it up too because the person who brought this up, they used the example of the restorative justice panel and how, like, if there are challenges or that came up in the town, that maybe a committee like that would serve to help to resolve things in a compassionate way. And she was using an example of a challenge she was having with a local business. And so instead of it becoming like blaming or chastising the business, that maybe if there's like a compassionate, committee of sorts, that they would help with maybe with a business owner or what have you around, and also helping maybe having community conversations around what tools do we need to actually, all of us, to enact it, and not just on us, not just on the group, but like everybody. And I thought it was a brilliant idea.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. So yeah, that's.
So you
I
just
guess
gave
I'm going to
yourself a
formally
new
say that's my
job.
suggestion.
That's your suggestion, yeah.
I'll write
That's how
something
we-
up
I mean,
behind the
that's how we
scenes.
come up with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to make that a part of our goals for,
I think
yeah.
are we gonna take the rumination and bring it back?
Yeah.
Or are we gonna?
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, so you're on the right track.
awesome, cool.
Can you send me a suggested word?
I
for that?
absolutely will send you some language. I was already
make it
thinking
look
about
fancy.
it. Yes.
I think that also came out, I'm sorry,
But, yeah.
make the meeting too long, but it also came out at different points during the year. If you were watching any of the select board meetings,
Yeah.
we sort of reminded ourselves that.
Oh, absolutely. No, I've been following.
Especially the panhandling issue
Right.
and things
Oh,
like that.
absolutely. I mean, it came out when people were trying to figure out what to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. So do we want to look this over, think of things, and then
Yes.
if
I'm
anybody
writing
has
Shanta's
anything,
idea.
they
Yeah.
send them to Peter,
Okay.
and then we'll put it on the May 1st agenda. But of
Okay.
course, if people think of things on May 1st, we can add stuff. So it's not like a living, breathing document.
But if you have something in advance you want to be distributed,
It lives and
Then-
breathes.
It would be great.
yeah, then by.
Okay,
Anything you want to keep that you're from tonight, rip out of your binder. So if you want to keep those goals.
Or you can put it in the
Or put it in
front
the
and Jan will leave it
pocket.
there.
Depends.
Okay,
Either way.
thank you.
If you have one that you want to give me to put on the list for consideration by the group next time, if you could get it to me by a week from tomorrow, the 25th.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah,
Cool.
great.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got one. Oh, it's gonna be big.
A week from tomorrow. It's
Well, then we'll have to set it, we'll have to set it only 10 goals. Instead of
only 10
limiting how many
So
goals
it's,
we can
okay,
have.
so
It was
by
10
April
per
27th.
Yeah.
That's how it works out.
All right. So does that sound good to everybody?
Yes, good idea.
Cool.
Okay, next up is our rules for conduct. And this is how we conduct our meetings and hearings. And I don't know, I'm not going to put you on the spot, Shanta, and go, did you read out all
I
of
did
this?"
read it,
Oh, you
actually.
did? I mean, you get points.
I did read. Yeah. I actually read way before this meeting. So
Good.
yes.
And, they're pretty, anybody who wants to read it, it's on the town website. But it's pretty basic on how we run our meetings, how we expect the public to be at a meeting. So I don't know if people have any things they want to talk about in relation to it. Again, we don't have to adopt this tonight, but if people want to, we can go ahead and do that. So, I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions or
I don't have-
proposed changes.
Sorry, I'm just jumping in.
Oh, yeah, go right
I
ahead.
don't have much. I just had a question about one of the items that probably was exactly the same last year.
What page you
I'm
have?
not sure it's,
Where are you?
it's on page 4, down near the bottom. Is this accurate? As with any item voted by a select board member, a proposal must have the affirmative vote of 3 select board members to
That is
constitute.
correct.
That's
Yes.
the quorum, right?
Even if
Yeah.
there's only a quorum, you can't have 2. It's gotta be
Yeah.
all three.
Right.
Even if there's only,
You-
yeah.
So if there's
You
only
have it
3,
here
there
for
has to
that,
be
that you
unanimous.
don't-
We've been-
If there's only 3 of you here, Right. A 2-to-1 vote doesn't approve the item.
Doesn't move the
It's
item.
just majority of select board members.
Well, you know, it's happened a couple times
I
when there are
thought it
four,
did happen
when there are
once.
4 of us, and we say it has to
It's
be
2 to
3.
2.
If it's 2 to 2, it dies.
Yeah. It's two to two, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure.
I think it hasn't happened very often, but, because sometimes we've specifically said, well, we're not gonna vote on it right now, because it's like gonna be 2 to 2, it's gonna die.
Right. That's fine then, I just want to make sure it was accurate.
Yep. So, does anyone have anything they want to talk about? Do we want to
The
vote on
only
it?
thing on this one that the comment on, and I'm not sure that, I think it was doable, it would have already happened, but it's around the order of the agenda. And tonight, it turned out to be that we did all the business that involved other people, so
Yeah.
they could go home.
It bothers
And then
me
we
all the
stayed
time,
from-
it really does.
And I don't know if there's any way to make sure that the people involving things get earlier
Yeah.
on the agenda. Because some, I mean,
Especially-
staff people are here till 11, well, once to 11.
Especially if
And
we're
it's
being
just-
more like cognizant about not overloading our agendas.
We'll get
For a
back to that.
while, we were overloading them, right? And so
Well-
then we weren't getting our work done until 11 o'clock at night. But
We have control over that.
We do.
And yeah,
People
you go,
just look
you go
like
first, because I was
jerks.
gonna say sometimes there are reasons that things are laid out that they are, because they flow in a certain way, you know, you have.
Yeah.
But sometimes, and I'll admit that there were a couple times when we were setting the agenda for the budget. I don't know if you remember this, Brandy.
Yeah.
And we were gonna let everybody go first, and then
Uh-huh.
we were gonna do the budget. And we
Right.
kept doing that, so the budget discussions we're having at like 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
Then I became very like, well, wait a second.
Doesn't work that way,
The
the budget.
people, the budget's
Yeah.
important, it needs to be first.
Yeah,
And to be
well-
perfectly honest with you, the other people who are coming in to talk to us are citizens of the town of Brattleboro. And if they can't sit and listen to a budget discussion
Yeah.
for their item, something's wrong with that.
I
So
think for budget, that makes sense.
I
Yeah,
agree for
absolutely.
budget, that makes
Yeah.
sense too, and I don't know why I see it as
And we have separate meetings that are
season, but I
almost all
kinda do.
budget. so
Yeah.
we'll do it that way.
So I think we're on the same page on, I don't want people
Yeah,
to sit around.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Am I
being more
making
conscious
sense?
would
Yeah,
help or not.
make a great sense. And in fact, with that one exception of, that the juggling becomes more difficult at budget time, and we often will push budget discussions up towards the front of an agenda. Other than that one exception, there is a standard. It's obviously not been, I know we haven't articulated it before, and it's not been clear enough in the way that it unfolds for it to be a observed pattern. But when we're putting it together, we always attempt to have things that involve members of the public first, things that involve other members of staff besides us next.
Okay.
And things like this that
Yeah.
are about sort of just something where you only need Patrick
Yeah.
or me or Jan, or something where it's just discussion among the board members will come at the end. What will sometimes happen is there's enough of those different things on a given evening that we still see
Yes.
somebody having to sit here for a
At like
couple of hours
9:30,
before they get a
yeah,
chance.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that
That's what I thought.
clarification.
Yeah.
And the budget stuff, that has to come first for me, hands down, because we need our brains to be like top
And that's why you
notch.
sort of hear that in like October or in December, people are here, but to me, it's like they should listen to the budget discussion.
Yep.
So, but we're on the same page, because
Okay.
don't you think we're all like on the same page with it?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, we don't want to stay here till 9:30 either, makes us feel weird.
So do we feel like you want to vote on this tonight, or do you want to, do you want to wait till the next meeting? What do people think?
I want to vote on it.
It's low hanging fruit
Okay.
for me, as long as you're comfortable,
Okay,
Shanta?
it can go.
You're comfortable with it?
Yeah, I'm totally
Pretty
comfortable with
dry,
it. I've read them
Yeah.
prior, they're all good to me.
So does somebody want to make a motion to approve the rules of conduct of meetings and hearings as presented?
I move to approve the rules of conduct of meetings
And hearings
and
as
hearings as
presented.
presented.
All right, we have a motion to approve the rules of conduct of meetings and hearings as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, the next exciting topic is the annual appointments to boards and committees. And the select board has seats on certain boards and committees. So what we do, Shanta, is we sort of go through and see who's interested in being on what. And there's only like a couple times there's been like a competition for stuff. But
What's that one?
We can start right from the beginning. The Capital Grants Review Board, Brandy and I have been on it. I have never gone to a meeting.
Neither have I.
Sounds like you
So
want to
should we
stay
want to
with
be
it.
on it again? Does anyone mind if Brandy and I
Oh my God, there you go,
There might be-
Shonda.
there might be
Welcome to the
competition.
inside.
Kate and Brandy, well, because we've done such a good job, we'll go on again.
Yeah, why not? I do the same thing.
That was my favorite moment of the night.
That's why it's a big fight here,
Are there
Sean.
any public-
Well, since I haven't yet gone to a meeting of the Rental Housing Improvement Program Loan Committee, so I'll stay on that.
Do you want
You still should, I should be on that anyways.
Yeah.
So we're cooking, working right through here. I've been to several of the Small Business Assistance Program Loan Committee meetings, and we have 10 loans in process, and I'd be happy to continue.
There you
Does
go.
anyone have any objection?
No.
Thank you.
Go forth.
Thank you for
I
your
spend
service.
that-
Go forth.
Even though I give, well, I'm
All
loose
right.
with the cash.
Just say that I really enjoy being on the traffic side.
Even if they start at 8 o'clock.
Yes, especially.
That's the one people fight over.
In the morning
traffic safety.
or at night, yeah.
Well, you know,
busy
that's
now,
not
8
true
in the
anymore,
morning.
right? Didn't we,
Actually, yeah, I'm sorry that still says it's 8 a.m. every month.
And Shanta, if you want to be on the Capital
me?
Grants Review Board, you can be.
Yeah.
This is really.
Same here, I know. Poor
Do you want to be
Shonda.
on it? Do you want to be on the Capital Grants
She
Review
can
Board?
fight us off for whatever she wants.
But there's the Waste
No.
Management,
Capital Grants Review Board.
the Waste Management District is a
Yeah, and I'm not.
good one.
See, that's the one I really don't want to be.
The waste management is.
Do you want to
a good
talk about that?
You-
So
it is
it's
a good
you
one.
sit.
one. Why is it a good one?
It's required for every new select board
No,
member.
I'm not buying that.
You wanna-
Yeah, the Wyndham Solid Waste District has a board that oversees the solid waste district, and it's made up of all the member towns, representatives from all the member towns. And there's two, as you can see, there's a representative and there's an alternate. It's,
What about the police
Kids
fire
on elms don't
facility?
stay on.
That's all done.
It's all done.
It's over.
Oh, it's done.
Yeah.
Oh.
yeah.
That
How
actually,
much
the
is-
sunsetting of that'll be on one of the next couple of agendas.
Nice.
And we don't have a board member on the Community Police Communications Committee,
No.
Ooh,
No.
which might be what you were thinking about.
why don't we?
Well, it's not a formal have-to-have.
It's not.
You
I know, that
can, you
would be a
can
good
go.
one.
When do
Anybody
they
can go.
meet?
Yeah, they're public meetings. Jan can tell you when. I don't know it off the top of my
I
head.
think it's the fourth Monday of every month at 5:30. And yes, the board has never assigned a select board member to that committee, as most of them don't have a select board member
Right.
on the
Right.
committee. Certainly, a member can go as a member of the public.
Right, but you're not a member of the
Yeah.
committee.
Right, but you're
Yeah.
not
They're all
representing the
public
select board.
Yeah. So how often
gonna
does
pull the
Wyndham
infant
Solid
baby
Waste
card.
They meet the
now?
second Thursday of the month at 7 o'clock.
And are they still meeting with the same frequency?
That's your sort of.
Yes.
timeframe to do that.
So,
Just less
so you
urgency.
sit on the board to kind of see what you do with,
Now it's like composting and.
yeah, kind of like how does the town manage their waste and what new and innovative.
You gotta be on something.
Well, I am going to be on something,
be
but the
Capital
question,
Grants
I may
Review.
have a conflict with that.
What's
A
that?
conflict on Sandglass, but I have to triple check and see when my board meetings happen
I'm supposed to
with
have
that.
kids Thursday nights.
But there are, I mean, it's, the thing that I liked about it is that there are representatives from all the towns. And a lot of them are the people that,
I feel like
work at the
I feel
dump.
pitch it is being pitched. Is this
You're
like,
being pitched, yeah.
Do you
And,
want to,
it's an amazing group.
Is Sean to be the alternate? So
What's
that
that?
Do you want to be on it? Is Sean to be the alternate?
No,
she
I
could
don't.
warm up a
And
little.
I've, and I've often have a Thursday night conflict as well.
Yeah.
so I
But,
have to just check and make
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
Let's figure that out.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
they're also going to be dealing with,
Like I promised to let everybody know
Yeah.
what my
Maybe we could.
they've got
save
some
them.
we'll
an
see.
anaerobic digester proposal coming up.
Yeah, which is interesting.
What to do with
Yeah.
the revenue from the How to share the revenue from the solar array is going to be one of the
But the
big
community
topics.
police one wasn't an option?
No, that's not a
no.
select
It's not a
board
formal
person.
Oh, it's
It's
not
not
a-
an option for you to go to, it's just not a mandatory.
It's not a mandatory.
You're not on the committee. Now, Shauna, do you want to take,
'Cause
you
that is
should, you
cool.
should take my spot on the Capital Grants Review Board, even though it's never met.
Are you sure?
Yes, even though
And
it's
then
never met, it
I'll
might
take
meet.
it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Because
It'll
if
be you and
it,
I, we'll have no idea what we're doing.
That's
yeah,
cool.
if it
I'll
meets-
take it.
if it, if
I'll
it-
take it.
Yeah, if it meets, it's good.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one,
It's
if
a
it
good
meets.
news board.
All right, I'll take it.
Yeah. So,
I'll take that.
so Tim, do you still want to be on, does everyone okay with Tim being on traffic safety, or
I
should we rip
guess.
it from him?
You can rip it from me, it's just that,
No.
it's
I'm
just
only
that I
kidding.
can't do another evening meeting
I
know.
I'm
Right
only
now.
kidding, yeah.
with the
Yeah.
infant baby.
Okay, so, you
Is
want
there
to,
some, does somebody really want to be on traffic safety?
no, I'm just kidding him.
No.
Oh, okay.
Remember when
Yeah,
Donna
well,
stole it from Dave Gartenstein?
Yeah.
I think Tim really wants to be on it,
Boy,
and he
steam coming out of his
Pushing a
ears.
stroller, now I'm very much more aware
Of
of.
course. Yeah, no, that
terrifying.
makes sense.
You're the candidate.
Yeah, that
Terrifying.
makes sense.
You the man.
So the
Yeah, you
issue,
can have it.
the issue that we'll have to discuss at a future meeting is Wyndham Solid Waste Management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Does it have to be
Is that
a
okay?
select board
well, that was
person?
my question too, and I don't know the answer, but I'm sensing that it may be hard to populate this with two of you at least. You know,
Yeah.
we may struggle even to have one. So we'll check on that and
Yeah.
see
That'd
if
be
it's okay
great.
for the board to appoint a staff member or a community member
Yeah.
to be the town's.
That's happened in the past. In fact, they were all community members when I got on.
Okay.
I didn't even know I was replacing somebody that wanted to be there. I just showed up and said, who are you?
Okay, okay, so we can, the next meeting, we can talk about that.
We'll let you know
That
that.
sounds great.
In the meantime, since John's not on anymore, they've allowed that you, not on the select board anymore, they've allowed that you can continue as the alternate
Great.
until such time as the board has
Just leave it that
appointed a
way.
replacement.
Yeah.
So we'll let them know that we're still having to sort that
And I'll
out.
still
and
be
for
their
another
alternate.
month, you'll be the alternate.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I-
Brandy?
Sort of.
Have you been going?
We haven't done it yet. Can I just throw something out real quick?
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
talk to you offline.
so I went to several of the Board of Civil Authority and Development meetings
Sorry.
because
I went
in
to
the
one.
past, you did?
Yes, I did.
Awesome, awesome. But I know that the tradition has become that the board does not go to these meetings. And I'm not trying to rope everybody in, but I have a little suggestion. I was wondering if the board should serve out of good conscience as backup members when they really need a quorum, so that we could be tapped if we're absolutely needed at least, because it certainly is sort of something that's been dropped, and it really is kind of a select board.
Do they notify us of
Yeah,
this
and they'll
stuff?
tell you if we're not getting a quorum.
You've been getting the emails.
Like,
Does it come to our, I don't know where they go.
Jacob.
Well, you
Do
send
they
them
come
to
to
the
our,
wrong.
they come to our town?
to
I
your,
bet they
Yeah,
are.
I never
most of
look
the
at it,
time.
because there's I get so much spam, I never look at it. Okay, so now I should look at it.
But she'll
Just
say
said
when
that
there's
in
not
an
a
open
quorum.
Session that you don't look at your emails.
Because I get spam.
Moving
All right,
on.
well, just
Okay,
my
so that's
pitch.
a thought.
I'm not gonna
Okay.
insist, but I just feel like
Okay,
they do important work and we should try
Yes.
to help them when
when they
we
don't
can
have
help.
a quorum.
Absolutely.
Okay,
All right,
yeah.
I'm done.
So noted. So we've done everything except the next meeting, we'll do Wyndham Solid Waste. Now we have to do the rotation of signing of the warrants. And the warrants are all the little bills that we pay, or the checks that we write. And each of us takes a turn at doing it.
My favorite thing to forget to do.
Who's doing it now? I know.
I am. I
Um,
was invited to
So you're
start it up.
To be the
Well
bridge.
done,
Do you want to keep doing it till June?
Yeah, I'll go till June. That'd be
Okay.
great.
David.
I have a request.
What?
Well, when do you want to do it?
I think it was the same time I did it, but it's the least likely to have any interruption for me. I think.
When's that?
The November 8th through the
All
January.
right, does anyone have any problem with that?
No, I have a request. I'd love
Yeah.
to do it August 23rd through November 1st.
Look at this filling right up
Perfect.
here. I'll
Okay.
do after David, it's fine.
So I get the new year. Oh, good, that'll, I have a whole year for
Is that good?
Oh, yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
My God, look at the 2019.
And if somebody's not here, we all fill in for each other, just,
Yep.
so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
if you're not there, we figure it out. All right, so is that good?
I know.
That was quick.
Yeah, not too bad.
I think we're done. Are we done?
For an early season
Yeah.
meeting, not too bad.
Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
You have a motion to adjourn? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you to every single person who helped us and who watched and stayed in the room to the very end. So thank you.
Oh, it's Mondays. Okay, I have that calendar.